Welcome back to Quiet on Set. I'm Ewan and I'm joined by Kevin for our coverage of the 82nd Venice Film Festival. This is our third year covering the festival and we've both seen all 21 films that played in competition. We've already shared our thoughts on the questionable Golden Lion winner and the other award choices, but in this video we'll simply be reviewing the 21 films from competition. We also got other videos coming out that are about the out of competition section, Horizonte, Spotlight, and the other smaller things. You'll find that all linked below in a playlist for Venice 2025. Kevin, before we kick it off with the opening film, our first review today, what did you think of the competition selection this year as a whole?
There were 5 Italian movies in the selection out of the 21, which you could argue, obviously the Venice Film Festival, has all the right to make its own selection, to have a few Italian movies in there. No problem with it. 5? A bit much in it.
But like about a fourth of it. Also in the awards, 2 prizes went to Italian movies.
Yeah,
which are pretty questionable as well. I
mean, 3 out of the 5 overall acting prizes went to Italian performances. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah,
and it was a very front-loaded festival, as Venice sometimes can be. It really wasn't last year, but the year before. It was also another front-loaded edition. Most English language movies were in the front. So the last few days of the film festival, we had almost no English-speaking movies anymore. Because
last year the difference was that Joker Folie à Deux was an exclusive to Venice, and so they programmed it later into the festival. This year, no other choice, Bugonia, I think Jay Kelly as well, or I don't know about After the Hunt, but I think all of those titles ended up going to TIFF or are soon coming to another festival. So they really wanted to get the premieres out. Same goes for TIFF. From what I saw, reactions to the big movies were all in the first few days as well. So I don't know. I think a more balanced structure would definitely be good, but I totally understand why they do it. It makes it a bit easier to attend for people who don't want to stay the whole festival. But for us, we are looking for, not to have a block of only US Hollywood productions, and then you go back to only international stuff.
Yep.
A bit of a balance would probably be better. So that's kind of our feedback, I guess, for this year.
Yeah. But without further ado, let's do the reviews for the in-competition movies at the 82nd Film Festival. I stumbled over my words there.
The 82nd Film Festival in the Biennale de Cinematografica, whatever it's called. But yeah, the opening film of the festival was the latest film from Paolo Sorrentino called La Grazia, which also starred his frequent collaborator Toni Servillo. He made The Great Beauty with him, The Hand of God, Sicilian Letters, which was at last year's Biennale, and he wins Best Actor for the Volpi Award the 3rd time now, and he's actually starred in 7 of the 10 films that Sorrentino has made. So it only makes sense that I guess, another movie where he's the centerpiece stars him. This one's about President Marino De Santis, whose term is coming to an end, disparagingly nicknamed Cemento Armato Reinforced Concrete for his intractable nature and overly careful approach to politics. He has grown lonely in the echoing halls of the presidential palace, mourning the loss of his wife and listening to hip-hop. Before returning to civilian life, DeSantis must make a series of bold decisions, a pair of presidential pardons, and a groundbreaking policy bill that will cement his legacy. That's the synopsis for the film. It comes in at a runtime of 133 minutes and is, of course, an Italian film, and also stars Anna Ferzetti as the daughter of the president. And it mainly is those two that are interacting, the most in this film. Yeah, director statement, some of these films do have a director statement up on the website. Most of them do, and for some of them you can really see like, oh, that's why maybe I didn't connect with a film the way that they are talking about it. I feel a bit about like, you probably feel the same, Kevin, but like the way he describes it here, it's way too long to actually read out the full thing, but he calls it a film about love, a film about doubt, a film about a moral dilemma, that ethics are a serious matter, it holds up the world, and the lead character Mariano de Santos is a serious man. But let's kick it off with our thoughts here. What did you think of La Grazia?
I think La Grazia is a rough diamond that needed some cutting. At some points in the movie, you have a Darude-ass sandstorm, like a Darude sandstorm-ass soundtrack at times, until it focuses more on the rapping. Which I actually liked a bit more, because it's always funny to see an older individual try to understand what music the younger generation listen to. You always have that debate every year. Obama puts out his list, and you're like, Obama has listened to that. Obama has watched those movies. Obama has read those books. So, naturally, it's sort of always funny to have, someone old listening to the new stuff. But I do think the first act was a bit too comedic, but has some good gags. But, I have to explain about one gag. So in La Grazia, there is a black pope. The moment the black pope appears, there was somebody a few rows behind us we don't know if it was a low-key or a high-key racist laugh. Like, I don't know if that person was laughing out of racism or at the racism. But I love how Ewan just rejoined and absolutely knows what bit I'm talking about.
I know. You're talking about the Black Pope. Yeah.
And there's also a bit with a Lithuanian ambassador that sort of feels like an old man's wet dream, essentially.
Yeah.
But for me, like, Grazia is way more interesting when it leans into its more judicial and ethical sides of things. The actual visiting of subjects could have been a bit more interesting if they dive deeper into the material, instead of bringing up a lot of the same points in the discussion before visiting said subjects. So it sort of feels repetitive in that way. I also don't know if I needed the romance side plot, since basically they say at the president's hey bro, get over it, man. But the subplot I liked the most was about a horse, about whether the question of should we put him down or not, and the phrase, if I don't sign, I'm a torturer, and if I sign, I'm a murderer, is also a very interesting phrase of dialogue, especially in a country such as Italy, where euthanasia is obviously a very touchy subject, since it's such a Catholic country. But that's enough about me. What did you think about La Grazia?
I liked it. I mean, we both live in countries where euthanasia is, I think, legalized. Yeah. I think in Belgium it is as well. It's still a rigorous process, to undergo it. But I think that, like, the allegories it has in this film, like with the horse and that being kind of a catalyst for him to, he like jolts forward, on a character narrative level for a bit, and then he's stagnated immediately again. And that, like, to me, I think coming out of it, we both said, like, this guy is just really, or I wrote down a bunch of times in my notes that, like, this guy is just really boring. And I think that's fine. I think that's sort of, also his perception as a character, like the sort of the judge who takes in the impartial sides and looks at everything and wants to get it right. But unfortunately, that just makes for, like, the sort of clash of his sort of jealousy that he has, because he also has this sort of thing of, like, figuring out who his wife cheated on him with, and he has that sort of insecurity that leads to a lot of, like, the comedic bits in this film is, like, him trying to figure that out, and, like, the looks that the lead actor here, like, has and shares with a bunch of people, that is just accusing them of, like, the deepest sort of betrayal as well. And I think those things, like the switching of tones, don't work most of the time for me.
Especially
so,
the
like,
mixing
I felt,
of, yeah.
and then just going into like a complete, like, very slow-mo Darude sandstorm type thing, and then trying to humanize him by, you know, saying he's actually not that rough around the edges. He actually listens to rap. Like, he's trying to be more connected. What I found interesting is in the director's statement, I believe as well, is like, or maybe it was somewhere else where I read it, is that a lot of it is you know, letting the younger generation that is more connected speak and being guided by them, instead of just trying to hold on to your own beliefs, and like coming to that realization that you know, I don't want to spoil where the movie fully goes, of course, but like having a place to listen to that, to not always be the authority and the place where everyone turns to, because with age you lose that sort of touch and that sort of realization in the state of the world that we are in right now, that is ruled by boomers that are out of touch and only self-preserving for the inevitable, you know, death that they just like hoard like crazy. And then to have like this sort of thing where it's slightly touched on that maybe you listen reluctantly to what people recommend you do. It's just very a repetitive film as well. So yeah, I think it felt a bit too long to me. It was like well done, right? This makes sense to the movie like this. Obviously, a Sorrentino plays in competition. I just wasn't like, I think you get more out of it as well. I don't know if you touched on this while I was away, like the connection to the actual like real president of Italy right now. There's some connections, like some stuff that he had to do that was similar. I think also about like pardoning someone in who he pardoned, which also we won't spoil. There's some clear like political commentary that it does for Italy right now that obviously both of us are missing out on. And you can kind of see that. Like, it was interesting, two people we had on our jury grid, one of them gave it a really good rating, and I think the other person gave it a pretty like low rating. So it's not like, you know, just because you're Italian you're going to love Sorrentino. But it's also like, you know, a flavor. If you like the sort of romanticization and fetishization of like the male gaze towards like beauty, you know, or like female beauty, I guess, then Sorrentino is your guy. I mean, he literally made a movie, Parte Notte, which is just about like staring at a gorgeous woman for like 2 hours. So I gave this one a 5 out of 10. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to mention.
I gave it a 6 out of 10. I guess the last things I want to add is a really good one fourth wall break and one really weird, absolute weird one, including a robot. And I should say there's also like the president's best friend, like female friend, has a certain dinner scene where, you know, people were laughing at it. I just wasn't totally vibing with it, but I can totally see some people being on board with the comedic scenes of this movie. I just wasn't as interested in them as I was in the dramatic ones. So yeah, 6 out of 10. Our jury grid gave it a 3 out of 5, so fun enough, the same score as me. So yeah, I think that's all we got to say about La Grazia.
Let's move on to the latest film from the Son of Saul director Laszlo Nemes, called Orphan. In Budapest in 1957, 1 year after the failure of the Hungarian Revolution, a young Jewish boy whose mother has raised him to believe that his father will return from the camps has his hopes shattered when a brutish stranger appears on the doorstep to take his family back. There's Orphan, a movie that is gorgeously shot on 35mm, was also screened to us in Sala d'Arsena in that format. I think it was like a 3x2, and comes in at a runtime of 2 hours and 12 minutes. It's a Hungarian film, and like I already said, it's from the director Laszlo Nemes, who made an incredible film with Son of Saul, about like the perspective of like you seeing the atrocities on the outskirts of the frame. And here he tells a coming of age story for a boy desperate to find some sort of belonging in a world that leaves him to fully explore his inner darkness, decision that he makes, if like what path he goes down. All of it is bleak and depressing in the sort of reality that it lives in. I thought this would be like a really interesting canvas to like explore this sort of search of identity, and also being a really poignant and well shot like portrait of a time, you know. Kevin, what do you think about Orphan?
I'm actually gonna give it to you. You can continue.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, like I said, the main theme is definitely like a coming of age. I think for the first half of the film, we don't get introduced to the person who the brutish stranger that reappears in the life of this boy, and we just spend a lot of time of him like going around. But like one of the first scenes, he like finds a gun and accidentally shoots it, and that's not really stated as like, oh, this is dangerous or this is Chekhov's gun, it will come back, and maybe it will, right? But it is just in the sort of framework of we are just following him along, and there's not much of like a plot going on until he has like a catalyst for him to be on the search of like the truth and what he wants the truth to be, and what that informs him about himself, what he hates, who he hates, and getting that context that you're lacking as a kid of like the difficult times that have come before, us knowing it, him not knowing it, and then like him realizing that in real time. A lot of his reactions are very muted and not really like, it's a great kid performance, but he doesn't really get a lot of like, you know, close-ups where he like realizes something. He just has the same response to a lot of it, which is like resentment and anger towards his mother, his maybe his father who returns. And I found it quite compelling. Even though this is another film over 2 hours, not everyone is going to connect with it. It has a specific look, a specific feel to it that can be quite grating. Yeah, he also said that like he wanted to create a cinematic language that would allow the viewer to revisit the traumatic experience of a child trapped between the perception of a boy crushed by a menacing world and a family triangle he fails to understand. Ultimately, the film explores a question of inner darkness. And it's just beautifully put the way that he, you know, some director statements are kind of lackluster. This one delivers. It's pretty good. Yeah, no, Kevin, what did you think?
Well, that inner darkness is really beautifully conveyed by cinematography on 35 millimeters, because it is really a cold era, but sometimes there are moments of really of warmth that shine through to that 35 millimeter, especially on the backdrop of 1957, and some scenes are a bit colder that are also beautifully conveyed by the 35 millimeter. But Gregory Gadebois is for me the standout performance, because it is sort of this brutish stranger that comes into this boy's life, and he is trying to do good, because it is not like he's a pure bad person. The movie isn't totally conveying that, and he certainly but he does have his flaws, like a lot of flaws actually. He can be really brutish at times. He does want to enter the kid's life and do good, but he sometimes does more harm than he does want to do good. You are seeing this backdrop. There's also a subplot involving a person that is in hiding. How that subplot sort of gets shut off, and sort of, I guess.
Yeah, how that plays out is
it's a bit not satisfying. I don't know how to word it really. Sudden?
Yeah, it's very sudden, and you expected maybe a bit more out of it, but you end
especially
it
since it's so tied to his best friend, to the girl. Yeah.
And I think that friendship is also quite like interesting to the way that they interact with usually they just hang out and just stroll through the town, and it's these kids who also act in a way that feels way more like adults. Like it doesn't feel like that, not that childlike, because they don't have those places aren't really there. It's under like police is like always there, and they're happy to arrest people, to kill people on the street. If you run, then you must be guilty and you're fired at, because they have that sort of year before you had the Hungarian Revolution, and from those afterfacts, you could see that like the military things, the police state stuff comes back around, and with that also the people who represent the exploiters during the time of World War II, right? Anyone who's not Jewish, and you can see those same things like happen again.
I mean, the infamous passport checks, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But the moment, the brutish stranger, who is possibly his father, does enter the story, there's a certain build-up. And that build-up is gets like strong all the way until the end when they enter a theme park. And again, the Orphan got played in the beginning of the of the festival, and that scene again stuck with me for the rest of the film festival. Like I will say this a couple of times, there are a few scenes in the whole film festival that are like a handful of scenes that will stay with me. The climax of Orphan will stay with me because it was so tense and you just did not know what was gonna happen. And I believe you said it was your favorite ending shot as well.
Yeah, I like the one in Silent Friend as well, but this one has a bit more like purpose in the way that it's just like, the one in Silent Friend is just really long.
Yeah.
But also during my screening, right in that pivotal moment, someone stood up and left, like a couple that was just being annoying and on their phone the whole time. And they literally blocked like part of the dialogue. That was like the most like D scene of the movie. D scene. I missed like one or two lines of it because they were like,
I forgot about that.
I wanted to fucking punch the shit out of them, like both of them. But I also think the presence he has, like this guy never looks anything other than gigantic.
Yeah.
He takes up like even if he's like further off into frame. And then he also has this sort of like there's a scene where they are like in a confined smaller space in a cellar, in an attic, and he's big, but there's also this sort of like softness to him as well.
Yeah. And
I found that to be like it is not reducing this guy down to the sole antagonist. He did horrible stuff.
I remembered how,
but he doesn't reduce him. Like it's so well done.
I remember how I described him in my thoughts. He's I don't know if you're gonna agree with me. He's sort of an European James Gandolfini. Like you know what I mean?
I do have to get a visual on that.
It's like the Sopranos.
Yeah, I know.
He sort of has that presence.
I know, but I'm just trying to look at like if I see that. It's just, I guess it's just like a bigger bald guy. I don't know if I see closer resemblance, but there's some
attitude,
similarities.
I see resemblance, not only in look, even in attitude, because he can be, timid and sort of honest, but then you also have that roughness.
What's also like him trying to reintroduce himself into life is what he thinks is always like a like some sort of niceness, and the kid doesn't change the way he reacts to it. It's always the same. He hates him and he can't really do anything about it, so the only thing left for the guy to do is to impose himself onto their family. And it's just
we haven't even really spoken of the mother
anyway
as well.
Yeah,
because the mother is stuck in this situation that she has accepted she can't get out of. Like she has accepted it. She's like, I know what this looks like, but honestly, this is just the best option for you and me, she says to her son at some point. Yeah.
And the movie is very much told from the perspective of Andor, the kid.
Yeah.
So a lot of like the understanding that we have what this mother is going through, we get it from the perspective of the kid who antagonizes her as well.
Yeah.
But you can see in like the moments where she has to get physical with the guy that she does not enjoy like any of it.
No.
She's just doing it to get by. And again, that was like wonderfully yet again, like this director knows how to play with perspective so well and how to use it cinematically, that this is an impressive film all around.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's in my top 10 of the festival for a reason. Unfortunately, not as many people in our jury grid liked it as us. It was a 3.28 out of 5 on our jury grid, but I personally gave it a 8 out of 10. You gave it a
7.5 out of 10. I can't really decide. If
Since when do you do halves?
I do halves. I do halvesies when it's out of 10. Okay, but definitely one that we'd recommend.
Yeah.
But much like Son of Saul, you kind of have to be prepared of what you get into it. It is a pretty trist and dark world that you're entering into.
And if you can watch it on film, I guess. Watch it on film.
Yes, I mean it's going to be difficult to get any screenings that will still have a 35mm, but it looked really, really good.
Yep.
let's talk about the latest film from Noah Baumbach called Jay Kelly. This one's about a famous movie actor called Jay Kelly and his devoted manager Ron, who embark on a whirlwind and unexpectedly profound journey through Europe. Along the ride, both men are forced to confront the choices they've made, their relationships with their loved ones, and the legacy they'll leave behind. I don't know how much I'm in for that whole like synopsis here, but it's yet another film in this competition that was like 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It's a Netflix production that I don't have the release dates written down, but it's sometime later this year, and it has a pretty stacked ensemble cast led by George Clooney alongside Adam Sandler. There's also Laura Dern, Billy Crudup, Riley Keough, Grace Edwards, Stacey Keach, Jim Broadbent, Patrick Wilson, Greta Gerwig, Alba Rohrwacher, Josh Hamilton, who else is in here? Isla Fisher, for some reason, Lars Eindinger, and all of the kids, like all of Adam Sandler's kids. And ultimately, I think it's a movie that really tries to be about identity, but then it maybe misuses its focus to be more of like an ensemble piece that also wants to give his secondary characters with Laura Dern and Adam Sandler like a romance subplot that they used to have, that they like have to go through. And with that, it's like, as always for Noah Baumbach, quite wordy. A lot of like dialogue actually back and forth, and then in certain moments it can really convey something without the words. And those moments, to me, like the same in Marriage Story, when those things like kind of find a path together, it's like that's when he's peak. And to me, that was all the moments that we get to see Jay Kelly in flashbacks, and also the sort of current day like phone calls he has with his older daughter Riley Keough. And yeah, I found this movie quite moving. I know you liked it too, Kevin. What did you think of it?
Like that last bit you said, the emotional moments, for example, with Riley Keough, which takes place in the woods. Absolutely adored that scene. That scene alone, we both agree, should get Riley Keough an Oscar nomination, but we'll see if that actually happens. But Jay Kelly has two writers. Not naturally, it has Noah Baumbach, but also has Emily Mortimer. And we don't know what goes behind, what happens behind the scenes. But there's a middle section of the movie that I low-key do feel like Emily Mortimer is more responsible for, because it has such British humor in it and European stereotypes, and I don't necessarily see Noah Baumbach writing that section. But overall, absolutely adore the first act and almost sort of love the third act. The second act is where it's a bit meddling, relationships are sort of tumbling, but you already have tumbled relationships you're sort of expanding upon, so you got like a whole lot of shit going on. But let's be honest, George Clooney is sort of playing George Clooney. It is very much a meta film, but the most interesting scenes to me were the flashback scenes with Riley Keough, but also how the actor Jay Kelly came to be when, what was his first big breakout role? What was the relationships he had with other women in his career? And the movie starts out with him doing a movie role, but he's not sure if he wants to continue or do another movie. And then we get to, he may potentially get a tribute, which he also has to share with Patrick Wilson, which it's Patrick Wilson, right? Yeah, Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson, yeah.
That is a funny bit, because that is like two dual actors, and it sort of reflects upon his big breakout role. But the whole comedic section in the bit in the middle just rubs me the wrong way. But it had a great ending, because at the end, the crossover between Jay Kelly and George Clooney is just made via a montage, and it is hard to not get chills when watching that montage. Like, honestly, it sort of feels like it could be George Clooney's last movie. It probably wouldn't, but it sort of feels like it could have been. But overall, I really dug Jay Kelly, just didn't love it.
I mean, this is maybe potentially a slight spoiler, specifically for that montage bit. If you really don't care, then skip ahead by like 20 seconds. But it specifically doesn't take from movies that that they fictionally shot for J. Kelly, but it takes from George Clooney's movies, and I got chills there as well. I thought it to be a little bit cheap. The way that it uses that, because it's such an easy connection for because it's real. But I felt something, so it was like effective and probably the best choice for this movie, even though I don't want to like it, because I disagree with and it kind of breaks this movie apart. But I was like, no, I guess I do have to take it as it is. Like, it's a bit of a blend. I also like the sort of conflict he has with the starting of his career, and the conflict with another character who I don't even want to say who plays that other actor, is something that he gets accused of doing something, and then you see it play out. We don't get to hear it's a certain perspective. It's pretty auctorial, from a third person type of view that is impartial, and you see the moment play out, and I was like, well, I don't fault him for how this is played out at all, but I can still validate the other person's resentment over him for that, even though I don't think this is he's at fault here. And it's presenting a lot of these choices as not paths that are clear in where they lead to. And in retrospect, he's very much aware that choosing the career over spending more time with his kids and his family meant bigger career, less family. And he can acknowledge that, but that doesn't mean him acknowledging it is going to mend the relationships he's hurt in the path. And you also see him interact with Adam Sandler as his agent in a way where he is still so unaware, and it feels that the character feels so frustrating in moments where it feels like he's just blowing up things for the sake of it. It's that sort of self-importance that he's not even realizing how selfish he is, and then still everyone kind of loving you for the sake of they just love you because you can do something well. But then I found it really interesting that it doesn't give him an out. It doesn't bring in any sort of nice resolutions. The only thing we still have is that we appreciate him as an artist. That's what gives us chills, the montage of him as an actor, and the craft of filmmaking, and how much of that is actually at the cost of just being a decent person, being a good parent, being a good friend, and that doesn't hinder you from your success and getting your tributes and feeling all that. And I like it. I like the film. The more I think about it, I think that there's a lot there.
Yeah, my thoughts stay the same. As I've gone on, I still hammer on that middle section, because the movie is 2 hours and 10. And again, like I said before, if your movie is 2 hours and 10, 2 hours and 30, which most movies have been in this competition, you sort of have to earn that runtime. And for me, J. Kelly didn't, whereas a movie such as Orphan or something did.
I mean, it that middle section is to hammer home a very physical attachment to actual people in the way that he's seen by the public.
It's also how detached George Clooney is to reality. I get it, but it just goes a bit too far, too over the top, too stereotypical in its view of Europeans as well.
It also takes forever because there's so many people interacting. It really, really drags there. But and also, I think it's mainly played for comedy, and a lot of it just doesn't really connect.
Yeah, but
I still think this is.
I still went oh shit, every scene, because there's a famous actor that's there, a German or a British one. It's oh shit, you are here. Oh shit, you are here too.
I literally knew every single person on that train. I kid you not. Even the old lady, everyone. That's crazy.
But our jury grade, I quite loved this movie in terms of, because it's a 3.75 out of 5. I have it as a 7.5 out of 10, and Ewan had it at an
8 out of 10. Sorry, I'm eating something.
He ate.
What I like to watch in the evening is the Kelly and Kelly show. You'll get that once you've seen the movie. But this one's out later on.
Beginning of December
on Netflix.
Beginning of December.
Thank you so much. So be on the lookout for it. I think it's again, if you don't fuck with Noah Baumbach as a writer, and he didn't like his previous stuff, you won't magically like J. Kelly just because it's George Clooney in it, and Adam Sandler as well.
Hey, it's still crazy that Adam Sandler left a tennis match on match point. That is still insane.
That is crazy. Me. That is crazy. That's that scene is pretty funny. And what we didn't mention, Greta Gerwig plays his wife.
Oh yeah.
And he has Yeah. Anyways, that's it for us on J. Kelly. Bugonia is the latest film from director Yorgos Lanthimos, who has graced the presence of the Venice Film Festival a couple times. Now he actually won when he had Poor Things screened, I think 2 years ago, right? And here in Bugonia, he assembles a cast of Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, Stavros, and Alicia Silverstone to remake the Save the Green Planet film, a South Korean film from 2003, and gives it kind of his own twist. It's two conspiracy-obsessed young men who kidnap the high-powered CEO of a major company, convinced that she is an alien intent on destroying Earth. So there's a lot of like comedy in there, some really over the top moments. It's the reason why Emma Stone shaved her head. And I just want to, I watched the original Save the Green Planet for this one. This is also one of the films that usually all of the directors leave director statements for the film. Yorgos did not leave one. Which makes us jump straight into our review and our thoughts. And I just want to hand it over to you because I don't know much like what I got to say about the film.
I mean,
it's a very Lanthimosian film, but like
absolutely.
I don't know if I liked it a lot.
And I straight like looked at you the moment the movie ended, and I asked you one question: how hard has Lanthimos saved the Green Planet? And you, I don't know when you told me actually.
Quite a bit. I don't remember either, but it's like so much more dialogue. The original is way more of a thriller, of a
also
crime
shorter,
thriller,
right?
of like it's also shorter. It feels a lot shorter too.
Yeah.
The dynamics are flipped. Like the CEO is originally a man, and the relationship between like Jesse Plemons, like the two conspiracy theorists, like it's a guy and his cousin, I believe. Aiden Delbus, the actor there, and that is a romantic relationship in the original, but it plays with similar things. I just found them to be way less interesting in Bugonia, and I just like it has the aesthetic, the opening of like the beehive, and it makes that connection with these Andromeda aliens. I think, we don't want to spoil where it ends, but I think some people were disappointed with how this one's. It's also different from Save the Green Planet. I also won't spoil that one, but that one ends like in a pretty big fashion. This one does too, but it feels like Bugonia is so much more like spelling out every step along the way, and less like thrilling. It's more comedic, but those comedic moments are way more drawn out. But I mean, neither of the performances, right, were the ones that we were saying, oh, this needs to get an award. And I think I didn't see, apart from Jesse Plemons, for some people, like not many people talk about it, which is something that you'd want out of like a movie like this, right? The performances and the screenplay are the standout, and they really, really weren't.
Yeah, for me, it felt a lot of surface level, because obviously, so these two young guys, they kidnap Emma Stone, and obviously the most interesting things are the dialogue when Emma Stone first wakes up and she realizes, and she sort of, she wants to get the high ground, but then realizes she doesn't, so she has to compromise. That whole dynamic, absolutely adore. But then when you have the dialogue between each other of, hey, why are you doing this? Well, this is the reason. It doesn't feel as confrontational as it should have been. It feels very surface level. I get it, because Jesse Plemons is sort of in an echo chamber, so he doesn't really, he isn't open for any other ideologies, and I get that. But it really should have been more confrontational between the two of them, really clashing heads, and it was more like Emma Stone was the image of that guy standing in front of a brick wall, and that isn't really enjoyable to watch at all. And it really is, for me, the ending that actually saves the whole movie, because I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but because it doesn't feel as confrontational, the middle section is sort of and it's really saved by the moment they start kidnapping her and the ending itself, which is also very much Lanthimos, but it doesn't feel as earned to go full on Lanthimos in the end.
And I think it doesn't really try to over-explain too much, but it ends up having a bunch of characters that maybe would need a bit more context. Like, I don't get the whole character that Stavros comes into, which I feel confident in like saying what this character is, but he's a cop, keeps showing up, and basically was the babysitter at one point for Jesse Plemons, and he very like openly says that like he like there was some sexual abuse at one point, and I don't know like what I don't know what that was for. Was it like to give us a like reason maybe why, you know, he is Jesse is that like fanatic, or like was there some sort of trauma? And it doesn't really use that. Like, it feels like you said so surface level, and there's no tension between those two when there's actual like reason for tension. And then he tries to search it somewhere else, and then the question is it justified? Is she an alien and he's actually like a hero? Is she not and he's just a maniac? And then even if she is, what was the cost of like maybe the times where he got it wrong? And all comes back to, I think Save the Green Planet just did it a lot better. It's a movie that didn't need a remake, and I don't think that Lanthimos is adding much to it. He adds a bit more comedy. It also feels a bit more like sadistic and fatalistic, the way that like some characters meet their ends. It's what he does often, you know, this sort of like out of nowhere and someone's just dead in the most brutal way. I just don't think that it was like, what do you play it for? Is it for comedy? Is it for like how absurd it is? Is it for ultimately making a picture of our world that is like, oh, we are humans beyond saving, we are so like, you know,
are we gonna talk about the ending or not? Are we doing spoilers or not?
I don't know, the movie is still way out until it like actually releases, but
well, then I'll only say one more thing. The house where the film takes place looks a lot like the house from The Beekeeper. Like, and that was the first thing I thought when seeing the location. I was like,
and it makes sense, you know, the film like, you know, has the opening with the flowers.
Like the actual location looked a lot like The Beekeeper, where Jason Statham lived.
That's another thing that was like, Save the Green Planet was a bit more like a secluded area where the house was, and the like lateral layout of the house added so much more to like the tension of it all, which I think was kind of underutilized here. It is a very South Korean thing that like architecture is so important in how like the camera moves and that you physically know where, and I feel like that was a lesser focus in, you know, this version.
So in the end, Bugonia left us sort of cold.
It did. No warm honey feeling at the end. Yeah, I mean, because it's just bees. I ended up giving it a 6 out of 10. You also gave it a 6 out of 10. And yeah, the jury grid gave it a 3.42 out of 5, which isn't a bad rating.
No.
There was definitely some people who liked it, some people who collected less with it, but it is a well-made movie. It's just not one that really stands out as like one of the year's best, which is something that you could expect from Lanthimos.
Especially, yeah.
Let's talk about a French film that is an adaptation of a sort of autobiographical novel that was written a couple of years ago. It's called À pied d'œuvre, or At Work.
I was honestly hesitating if I should correct you or not, but you actually did it right, so I applaud you.
Thank you. This one's one of the shorter films, which is not, you know, something that is common, that you get an hour and a half of a movie in Venice, but it's a French film from Valérie Donzelli and Bastien Bouillon. Is that actually his name? Bouillon? That's funny. Is the lead. He plays a successful photographer that gives up everything to devote himself to writing, and discovers poverty, which is like, that logline is like, that needs some rework because it sounds kind of out of touch. It's also got a longer logline, which I don't think it's worth reading out, but it's essentially a guy who ends up going on this matching service or bidding site to do like labor jobs, and the way that you get the job is by outbidding them for your salary, and he keeps just going down, and he's okay with like getting a low salary, and then we get a bunch of run-ins that he has with the clients that hire him to like you know, put together a cabinet, or like take out like potted plants, or also like or cut down grass, and they don't have a lawnmower, so he has to cut it like by hand, stuff like that. And it's obvious that like the critique is that this is like a chosen sort of poverty, and that like obviously is like brings it into scrutiny if people are just not going to like this film at all and what it represents. I think what it ultimately wants to do, and is what the director mentioned, is like the film questions the value we place in a life driven by a silent, unspectacular yet unstoppable passion, the need to create no matter what. Which I don't know if I fully agree with that, because ultimately it is like the movie is made because a guy chose to do jobs that like pay less, and that experience he wrote about because it's interesting, because it's different from what he could have done. So it's still like, you know, taking in that lifestyle, not because he has to, but because he wants to, and then writing about it. But I think there's nuance there that like you could go about this the right way or the wrong way. And I like this movie quite a bit. I thought it was quite charming. Kevin, I think you liked it too, right?
I liked it too. I feel like there's just a lot of missed opportunities. So for example, this guy goes jobbing on this app platform, and his first job is with two other people. But from that point on, we don't see any more other people, and we just see people, you know, competing on this app for being the lowest rated, for having the lowest rated rate to go actually do that job. And I find it a missed opportunity. Wait, what?
I do have one thing there, because you said that before, and I just wasn't 100% sure if, isn't it in one of those moments where they tell him to get on that platform?
No, I think it's like actually go do that job.
Because that would be one of the reasons why maybe, you know, I just, in my mind, it always makes sense that it's only always one person.
No.
That is, then maybe that he got the job another way. But I think it's like, he has a job before I think we see the app for the first time.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not 100% sure, but
now I do think because I've compared this movie to Suleiman, where, you know, Suleiman is also trying to do this job, but on a different account because he's an undocumented.
He's not allowed
immigrant.
to. Yeah.
And I would have watched this more, because now here I am watching this guy who chooses this life, but you know. And again,
takes the job from maybe someone else who would have done it for $1, for like an euro more, and he underbid him because he wants to do it.
And they talk about this competition, but the only way you see this competition is on this app. And I'm really more interested about these people behind him, that are behind this app. They're also competing. Like he never encounters any of them except the two workers he had in the beginning. I mean, the ending is nice. It is still, because he also has some things with his family, with his daughter, with his son, and at the end I'm like, you know, would it be more impactful if he was closer to his son or his daughter? But in the end, it really doesn't matter because they're in bloody Canada. I think
but the thing is, it's like ultimately, because you know this is going to be you know, the story of him writing the book, and you can read the book, it's an actual book, that there is some sort of outcome for, this sort of menial task would be, you know, rewarded with this capitalist notion of creation, that is then you get money for it. The thing that like made this movie like, okay, this is fine, is when at the end, true or not, I don't know, they do say that to this day he still like does these tasks. He's still doing that
when he has a certain phone call with a family member. So there is
more of like there is this sort of more of like a he says it there, and I think the implication is that maybe, you know, that is also the real person who does it. But I don't know if that's
like that. We
or
shouldn't
not.
really judge people like this that harshly.
Exactly. I don't know if it fully reflects that in the whole runtime though, because like you said, we don't get the other perspectives that would be really valuable. But here you view it for this point of like, you are seeing someone who is struggling, who you're told by him himself to not pity and not look down on what he does. But like there's a bit of both in there. Obviously it would be better if, you know, he is a bit more successful and, you know, can like is seen, I think, ultimately by his family with respect. I don't know how much he cares about anything else, and all of these interactions that he has with the people, like, they're not all bad, because he is this sort of really silent presence. He really doesn't talk much.
No.
I think the first comparison that I also made, that I think there's unfortunately not much to it, is Perfect Days. The way that like he cleans, and that sort of job is maybe not as much looked down upon as much as because it has a function as it here. Like I said, that it's like the Western way of just doing menial like tasks and not being bothered by it is like always seen as like a lack of ambition, or maybe intelligence, or maybe, depending on what your situation is, also opportunity. So this is only this is what you take because you don't have other options. And then I found it like an interesting like starting point.
And it also really feels like a Parisian movie because it takes place in Paris.
Yeah.
And they also, I don't know, do they really utilize Paris enough? For me personally, not that much compared to A Perfect Day. Compared to A Perfect Days, where they you really start because of the setting.
Or L'Histoire de Suleiman, where they actually are riding through the streets.
So yeah, it's just some missed opportunities that could have elevated this movie for me.
Yeah.
I gave it a 7 out of 10. You gave it a 7 out of 10, and the jury gave it a 3.29 out of 5. I guess it's worth your time.
Let's talk about my most anticipated film, potentially of the year, definitely of the Venice Film Festival, which was the latest from Park Chan-wook. No Other Choice comes in at a runtime of around 2 hours and 19 minutes. Of course, a South Korean film, an adaptation of the novel from 1997 called The Axe, an American novel that has been adapted before.
In 2005.
Also, I think in 2005, I think that was like Mexico or Spain or something like that.
A French movie, I thought.
Oh, French?
Yeah.
I thought,
I can look it up.
I got my countries mixed up. All Europe, all the same. But the original novel is from Donald E. Westlake. Park Chan-wook states in the director's synopsis that he read and identified with the protagonist a lot, like someone who sees nothing but the sort of paper manufacturing job as his entire life. Whether like the world acknowledges that like that should be his whole life, that is in question, and he feels the same about like filmmaking, and he has a family himself, like the way that he wants to pursue that. And the synopsis for the film is pretty bleak for a film that I think like how nuanced it gets, but that's just what you can expect from Park Chan-wook, I guess, because it reads: after being laid off from by his company, a man devises a unique plan to secure a new job, eliminate his competition, and with that he means like literally eliminate them. I got a lot to say about this, so I just want to throw it to you first, Kevin. What do you got to say about No Other Choice?
Just quickly looked it up. The other movie is The Axe, also known as Le Couperet, and was directed by Costa Gavras, who also did Z, Missing, State of Siege. So another very prestigious director that took on this project. But now we have No Other Choice. And funnily enough, I asked you after this movie, because you actually read the book, not fully yet, but you did read a lot of it, is how much did Park Chan-wook this movie, this source material at least? And your answer was very different, because I believe you said to me there isn't really a family perspective in this movie. In the source material compared to the movie.
Yeah.
You said it's also
not as
much darker in the book, in the sense of you're very much in his headspace, and you here in the movie you have a lot more back and forth between his victims. I mean, you also said it's pretty repetitive, because like in the book he's just killing people, and in the movie he puts out an ad, and like he actually has a full-on paper bundle that is probably this thick of all of his competitors in the field, and he only takes out, I believe, he takes out 5 of them, and he's like, I'm better than these 2, but these 3 are better than me. So already it is very dark humor, because he's like, oh, those 2, I'm better than them. So it's already a very narcissistic person, obviously. But he does care about his family, and if he doesn't get a job, the dogs may be gone, and you want the dogs to be back to the children, and
yeah, you don't have that. It's also like funny with the names that the like
it's like
thing 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yeah.
Well, I do have to correct a couple of things about the novel. The thing is, it starts off with him killing someone.
Oh yeah,
and it shows that at relative ease. That like it's about like how easy that was the first time around, and in his mind, if it stays easy, simple, he can like survey someone, they come out at him, he has the opportunity to kill someone, move past, and no one like knows it's him, then that's clean, that's what he wants to go for. And then later on it becomes about like, oh, if it gets messy, what does that do with me? Like I don't want to, like he doesn't want to live under that reality. And in this film it is way more about like his sort of obviously he's not a like, you know, born killer, he's ready to do it, so it gets really messy. It's like, and there's a comedy in it, there's a tragedy in it, and there's this sort of conviction that he has no other choice. Multiple characters have that when they are provided with so many other choices, but in their mind like there's nothing else, and you are confronted with it once you think it over a bit more, but we are never given like a different perspective on it.
I guess we should talk about the first kill scene, right? Because that scene is a pretty masterful scene on its own. The people literally clap. It doesn't happen very often in the press screening that people are clapping for like a scene. Some people clap for a stupid joke. Those mostly happen in Italian movies, and we are like, what the fuck is going on? But like that sequence alone did deserve a standing ovation, or at least, you know, an applause. Not a standing ovation, but an applause. If there's a line, a scene that encapsulates the movie perfectly, I'm like, I see you. And like that line was, don't you remember? Or like, we used to enjoy taking a drink or a beer with our colleagues or family, and so it definitely also is a tale about loneliness, about how we are, you know, we live in a time where we supposed to be so against each other that we're not really connecting to anyone anymore, and that's probably my favorite message of the movie, and it hammers the point home at the end when he... That too much? That spoiler?
That is definitely a spoiler.
Oh. You can bleep me. Honestly, don't edit it out. Just bleep me.
Well, I wanted to talk about that aspect of the ending as well without like giving too much away.
Right. You can still bleep me.
Okay, I guess I'll do that. But what is clear about this film is that it has that sort of thriller aspect of like guy who has to lay off, you know, or kill his competition to get what he wants. The thing is, like, are we watching a maniac that is like fighting for his existence, and you're like, why are you so delusional? Just get a different job, just get a different, you know, do something different other than literally killing your competition. And in similar ways to like Bugonia, you also are at a point of like, is it justified? Is there actual real danger that we have like following this character along on? And by the end of it, that sort of desperation, to me at least, you know, you can definitely arrive at a different point, was sort of justified by the logic of like the movie and how it ends on. And I was like, Jesus Christ. It's really dark and bleak, and it's not that far off from reality. Obviously that someone will go out and kill this competition, pretty unlikely, that's crazy. But that sort of frustration and I don't know, the desperation in the lack of like job security in like the coming years with AI and everything, that is so real. And like, you know, the frequent layoffs that the big companies have that uphold like the whole like worldwide stock market, and they keep firing people, less people in the workforce to go around to actually, you know, have a job. I think it taps into like some real frustrations that people have, and it perfectly like kind of weaves them into the story. That I don't know how much it like goes off from the novel later on, because I'm still like, you know, not even I think like halfway or somewhere there, not that very far into the novel. And then cinematically, I think we haven't said it yet. There's no one better than Park Chan-wook. Like, you know, there are the Nolans and the Denis Villeneuve who can craft these like like, you know, great like frames and scenes and worlds sometimes for
But in terms of
specifically.
transitions,
He's the I mean, TikTok must love him. But also transitions that sometimes I'm like, huh? Like, yeah, that was a bit random. But sometimes they're like I think Decision to Leave was a film that was so dense.
yeah.
And this one, I think I watched the review that the Oscar expert did, and with Oscar expert and Brother Bro, like Justin and Cole, and I think it was Justin who said that it felt like this is finally there at the speed where you can still perceive what's going on, but it's still so fast moving. The way that he like paces a guy who's like staking out someone's home, and there is like literally, I do not overemphasize, there is no dull moment in this movie.
No.
That is so impressive because you have like thematic richness, you have a cool narrative, you have a like compelling characters, you have two dogs that disappear. Do they come back? What more do you want out of a movie?
But again, we haven't even talked about Lee Byung-hun, who does a fantastic job.
I was about to say it.
Again, in those sequences where he both is terrified, where he both is angry, he does it all. He actually had a massive range of emotions that his character has. It's not like he's, this very one-note person and just, goes from this emotion instantly to that emotion. Like, he very much feels all of them, which is, the human condition in the search for a job. You feel it all. What were you gonna say?
For me, at this stage, he would be on my voting ballot for the top 5 performances of the year.
But will it happen?
Unlikely. I think there's a fair shot that like No Other Choice is in there for best picture. Even not just international.
It is
but
Neon,
there's
right?
a lot.
That has the US.
It is. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it is Neon. Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully, he was robbed last time with Decision to Leave. Hopefully, some more recognition. It's also a bit more of like a universal topic that I think is, like I said, like ringing home way too much for a lot of people. Again, pace, editing, cinematography, performances, story. I just was expecting maybe something a tad bit more. Like I wanted to push it over to. We're gonna get to our ratings now. Like a 10 out of 10, like a perfect movie. I would have needed a slight bit more of like emotional engagement when I felt like it was more like a commentary in a way, on the world than it was like a deeply personal like character study.
On the world or like in South Korea? Like
on the world overall, I think.
Okay. Not
just South Korea. I don't think like there's many South Korean specific things in this movie. That's why like they didn't change the industry. It was the paper industry in the novel, and it's the paper industry in this in this movie. But yeah, rating wise, again, one of the best of the festival. I gave this one a 9 out of 10. What about you, Kev?
And I gave it a 9 out of 10 as well. Hey, we both agree.
Let's go.
And our jury grid gave it a 4.12 out of 5, which obviously makes it one of the highest rated movies of our jury grid.
One of the few that has like over a 4 point something
like,
rating.
Like positive across the board, and hopefully it'll be soon on a screen near you. It has been selected for a wide release in the US in 2026. So I don't know how the international rollout will look like, but hopefully everyone can see it as soon as possible, because you do need to watch it as soon as possible. Yes,
it will have a limited release in the States to qualify for the Oscars, but that's probably only LA, New York, and Chicago or some other markets.
Yeah. Park Chan-wook, you are a god.
You are a god, yeah. I checked the release date for Switzerland is the 2nd of February, so I think that's like January, February for most other places. Unfortunately, you do have to wait for it a bit, which means you can have it on your 2026 best of list.
I hate those rollovers.
Yeah,
the spillovers.
Yeah.
Next up,
there have been frequent adaptations of Frankenstein. If I had to guess, there's probably like 20-30 of them at least, if not way more. The classic novel, it's a thick one as well, written by Mary Shelley, has been adapted countless times in very different ways. And when we got the announcement that Frankenstein will be adapted by Guillermo del Toro, what is there not to be excited about? Because the man can craft a universe. He has cast some exciting people with Oscar Isaac, Jacob Elordi as the creature, Mia Goth, Christoph Waltz, Felix Kammerer, a bunch of Lars Mikkelsen is also in there. A Mikkelsen, we'll take it, and then Nikolai Lee Kaas as well, right? Has got to be mentioned. He had another film at the festival that we also reviewed, Frankenstein, a very visual, easily visual novel that we identify the creature and the one who made him, is something that, like, in the hands of Guillermo del Toro, you'll get something special. And I didn't even write down the synopsis, because who needs a synopsis for Frankenstein? Frankenstein gets made. He's crowned to be Frankenstein's monster, which never gets said in this film. He's called a monster, but he is the creature. And we get this movie that is structured with a prelude. Then we get the perspective of Victor, which is called like Victor's Tale. And then we get the perspective of the creature. I think he made something special here, that it's a classic tale. Like in his director's statement, Del Toro mentions that his fascination with the Frankenstein character began at the age of 7 when he saw James Whale's Frankenstein, which I believe is like from the early 30s or maybe even late 20s. And Gothic horror became my church, and Boris Karloff, my Messiah, who plays a character in, I forget if he's actually playing Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster. It's not the only Frankenstein movie. I think there's like another one coming out later this year. And
the original Frankenstein is 1931.
1931, yeah, okay. And then this one is basically, like he describes it, a tale of a lost son and his prodigal father, Lazarus and Job, in dialogue with a single creator and seeking answers, just like we all do. And you wonder, okay, how much will I connect to Frankenstein, the creature that is like unkillable, an undead creature? And so a surprising amount. I think it speaks to just the human condition of how we seek belonging, how we seek closeness, how we want to be assured and acknowledged. We want love. All of those things are like in there, and I was not surprised to be like moved by the story at all. I thought it was going to be like dark and still entertaining, but I just didn't think that there would be such an emotional core to this film. But yeah, Kevin, what did you think?
Well, that emotional core, I think it is. Frankenstein is Del Toro's most sentimental film. I haven't watched Pan's Labyrinth. Have you? You probably have, right? Would you agree with that statement recently, that Frankenstein is perhaps Del Toro's most sentimental film?
I think I'd agree, yeah.
You agree? Great, thank you.
Yes.
You're supporting my argument. I paid him to.
Don't say that.
But at the festival itself, I talked to Josh about Frankenstein from Next Best Picture, and he did say, because Frankenstein has debuted at other film festivals, and I'm seeing a few 2.5, 3, 2, 2s out of 5 from people. And he did bring up the argument of, I think people are just, between brackets, glazing Frankenstein because of the way Del Toro makes films, the minimal use of CG, the maximal use of practical effects. I mean, there's literally one scene during the making of the creature that you just know Del Toro had the most fun. Like, that was the most fun part of the film.
It looked so fucked up. It was so fucked. It was so grotesque, man. It was like disgusting. Right? I looked so real. It's crazy.
Like, as you say in the notes, like, he doesn't hold back on the violence. Like, it is pretty, blood is shed. Like, you got Oscar Isaac literally going to a battlefield and being like,
oh, do we want this one? Oh no, that one's too many limbs are
too
torn
small.
Off or something like that.
It has to be tall.
Too small.
Right?
Yeah, that's a complete it's a complete disregard to human life, which is like the ultimate. Like, you need that to even be okay with like creating a creature like this, right? You need to have that as like
exactly
this scientist's view of the world, right? Which is really bleak.
And if we're talking about the production design, well, my favorite set is the one that the movie starts out in, which is this glacier, this ice. You got a boat that is stuck on, and it very much feels like The Terror or another series with Colin Farrell. It's so funny that we've done this like 3 times now. Like we talked about Frankenstein, and I still forget to look up the miniseries with Colin.
It is a Terror, yeah.
No, but the Colin Farrell, Jack O'Connell one, the North Water. That's what I mean.
Oh.
It very much, had that feeling. And then again, the story structure of Frankenstein is also, for me at least, it works because you really got this first half and the second half, and then you get hit with that emotional scene between Oscar Isaac and Jacob Elordi. I'm not going to continue any further. But there's also a special guy in this movie where I'm like, where's his cat? Where's his cat? Because he has a cat in Harry Potter, and when people will see him, they'll be like, that guy!
What's his name again?
I was not really gonna tell to spoil.
Oh, okay. But, okay, no, don't spoil it. But you know it. If you've seen Harry Potter, then you know. I mean,
you'll inevitably recognize him. The score is also absolutely amazing. From Alexander Desplat. Yeah.
It needs to be mentioned.
Who did Shape of Water. Absolutely love the Shape of Water score. I still listen to it to this day, actually. Like, it's really, really good. I can see myself...
This movie begins with a black screen and a score, and it's such a perfect... Like,
no to dooms in this one. Sorry, people at home.
No to dooms, even though it's a Netflix movie, yeah.
But yeah, I'll let you finish this review off.
No, I'm coming to the realization again that a lot of people will see this on, like, the ad plan of Netflix with like crunched blacks and like will be broken apart by like stupid like do you want Ozempic pills alongside your fucking
I mean, it is getting a theatrical release. I mean, most of the
very limited.
I think this one is getting a
wider.
Yeah, because there are two filmmakers. There are 2 filmmakers that have argued for it, which is Ryan Johnson with Knives Out and
his was shit. So like, it never came to Switzerland. It was like 1 week and then 3 weeks nothing.
Right.
And they just like they had it 1 week in the States and Germany.
Pinocchio was in the theaters for a while in Belgium.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We literally watched Pinocchio. We went to Pinocchio, and they were like, I went to Pinocchio with my mother, and there were 3 other couples. So not necessarily couples, but adults, and like the advertisement were all for kids. So as the advertising went on and it was just all for children, we just started bursting out in laughter because like we're literally all adults at 10 a.m. in the morning watching Pinocchio. But I do think it will get a decent release in theaters. Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, it has one here for me locally as well. There's one distribution company who picks up Netflix releases and sometimes shows them. It's mainly because sometimes with the rights it gets tricky. Where is it only Netflix US or is it international? I think what the story also really has going for it is the sort of you got the violence that he depicts. Then it's always like a question of, is it a glorification of it? I think from actually showing it, you're actually not glorifying it because you don't cut out the stuff that you don't want to see. So it really is like you get to see it all in this grotesqueness that you want to look away, but that's what's happening. So you get to see it with Del Toro films. Then it's also part of like that breaking down the glorification of this revenge that maybe in a sense of finding your own identity with the creature. It's also about like the sort of chase that he has going after Victor, and that like ultimately being futile. Like, is it actually what you're after, right? After this revenge, what is left? And that's what you're actually looking for, and that's what this movie is ultimately about. And I thought it was just going to be a chase, and then it was so much more than that, and it blew me away. It's like, oh my god, it's like there's a line that's like, I cannot die, I cannot live alone. And like there's some lines in there that like, ooh, they got you moving. I didn't cry, but it was really close. And like one person on a jury grid, Connor, he was like, he came out and was like,
I mean, to be fair, he was standing in the rush line for 2 hours.
Yes, yeah, maybe it was just him. He was just out of it. Yeah, I think was that the one where we brought him like water as well. And again, I think it goes without saying. You said there's a minimal amount of VFX if you can forgo it. That's why like the costume, the makeup, the like prosthetic work is all outstanding and all deserves to be acknowledged by the Oscars and also by us as well, giving them props. But I think also the visual effects side of it, when we do get it, is spotless. It was really good. It looked amazing. It sounded great.
And the performances, I mean, we've both said this is Elordi's best performance to date. Some people are saying Mia Goth wasn't freaky enough. Maybe we don't need freaky Mia Goth all the time. Thank you. And Oscar Isaac is just great as usual, honestly.
Yeah, and Christoph Waltz also serves like a purpose, but I think guy is solid in everything he does. He just doesn't have as much of a standout as these others, and it's like you don't expect Elordi to like as a really tall, big ass creature to get so much out of you. And the second half is like so much about like growth and like actually learning, and it reflects so much of something universal about like becoming human or being human, and that whole process is like mainly shown step by step, and yeah, it's something it's moving. I like it a lot. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
I gave it a 9 out of 10 as well. Our jury grid gave it a 3.89 out of 5, so close to that 4 out of 5 barrier, but it's just got below it. But definitely go check out Frankenstein.
There's only 4 films that end up getting higher than a 4 average on our jury grid, so it's very close. That speaks to the quality of it. I mean, if you were to compare that to a Letterboxd rating, it would be very high. So if you like Del Toro, if you're up for that sort of violence, this is like I can't think of a better take on Frankenstein. And I mean, I've only seen a few, but this seems to me like the one to point to.
I mean, there are so many at this point, right? There's so many.
I know, yeah. But I point to this one, but let us know what you thought of it. This year's special jury prize went to a Italian documentary by Gianfranco Rosi called Below the Clouds, Sotto le nuvole. Correct me, Italians, in the comments, which you probably won't be happy with our review if you end up liking this one, because we didn't really like it that much. We were kind of questioning why this documentary is even in competition when other films like Cover Up from Laura Poitras, who ended up winning the Golden Lion a couple of years ago, did not get included. But this one takes place in Naples, which faces dual volcanic threats from Venice and Campi Flegrei. Amid increasing tremors, archaeologists work as residents live anxiously haunted by Pompeii's fate while emergency services strain. And as always, if you have like an Italian synopsis, there's also a way longer one and also a long director statement, which I won't read out fully. But what you need to know is basically taking a bunch of different perspectives. There's, for example, a team of Japanese archaeologists that we follow. Then, like it's mentioned, we get to see the responses from the emergency hotlines and people asking for information about like, oh, was it just like a tremor? Was it just like an earthquake? And sometimes like people calling in and you're like, the funny reasons they call in. And those are the most consistent thing, I think both of us agree, Kevin, about this film, the sort of comedy that comes out of that. But there's also like a group of children that like a guy teaches. It like tries to, I think, like paint the portrait of this place. It somehow maybe makes it a bit like timeless, or at least tries to, with the black and white aspect. Didn't really see a reason why that needed to be, other than like some of like aesthetic looking shots for clouds. Maybe that looks great. The rest of it was just kind of lost a bit in the fog to me. But what do you think about this? I think it's going to be a shorter one, but
it is definitely going to be a short one. This movie has potential as a sort of slice of life thing, right?
Yes.
But all of a sudden we also get references to other war situations, and that's just rubbed me wrong the complete way. Because I get it, being so close to a volcano, etc. Some people would see it as a ticking time bomb, like something that's just is waiting and like is bubbling. and at some point will like explode. I was way more interested in the slice of life kind of things the movie showed. I'm way more interested in the people that live there. And sometimes the movie just doesn't focus on the people that live there anymore. And you get these comparison to other wars and people in other community that are in actual danger compared to this where they're just calling and what's the time, etc. And even in the sort of slice of life things, you know, you out of a sudden get somebody calling like, hey, somebody murdered. And it's like, okay. I mean, good to know that can happen in this community, but in the theme of the movie, that doesn't really fit because, I mean, you know, somebody getting stabbed could happen anywhere, right? So what was the need to include that in this movie? It's just overall weird choices that are being made.
I think like sometimes you every so often you get like, you know, a filmmaker who's made a lot of films, so you kind of believe, you know, they can craft something interesting. I don't think I've seen other films from this director though, but you have you know, you film over a couple of years. You just are like basically doing the fly on the wall thing where there's minimal like direct interaction, and you're just kind of observing, and through that you try to craft like a portrait of something that hopefully you get some poetic meaning out of it, or like, I don't know, it stands for something larger, or the individual stories are interesting. But every so often, it actually happens quite frequently, we get a documentary that seems kind of void of any sort of, you know, like through line, and this movie was definitely that. Like, what was the fucking point? I didn't get it. Maybe you get something more out of it. I think also it was a bit weird. It was like Syrian tankers who have to go to a Ukrainian port to like bring back grain to Italy, and it just shows them like calling back, being worried that like last shipment was attacked, like that sort of stuff. But it just places it without any sort of comment, all of this into it. And a couple of these moments, they stand pretty well by themselves, like the emergency calls, because there's an inherent humor. We understand, you know, that interaction and the humor we can get out of it. But then the rest of it, it's just like, it doesn't really add like up too much, and it's also almost 2 hours long, so you can really feel the runtime quite a bit. And yeah, there wasn't really much. Like, I think the historic like connection to Pompeii also wasn't like, there was a bit of that, but it wasn't enough for me to like cling on to something. I think what in the best case you like what he wrote in the statement as well is like, you embrace the surprise of an encounter, and then the rest of it in the director's statement was just a couple of like pretentious lines, unfortunately.
Wait to read it.
Just, yeah, as a I don't know, it was a bit disappointing also that this took up a place for an award to be given out. Maybe taints it a bit more for me as well,
to a cover up like you mentioned.
I don't think we don't have much else to say about it.
I think
I gave it a 5 out of 10.
I think we have as much to say about the film than the film has to say about itself. So yeah, I give it a 5 out of 10.
And our jury grade didn't like it much either. Ended up being at a 2.7. But to be fair, there were only 5 people ended up watching it. But the highest rating was a 3 out of those 5 people that saw it. So there wasn't much excitement for this film. And literally like over 10 people on our grid just skipped this one, even though it was playing in competition.
Yeah, it was playing competition.
Black and white documentary movie in competition, Italian. No one watched it.
No, thank you.
Let's talk about the Golden Lion winner of this year.
Can we not? Please, can we not?
A controversial pick. The latest from Jim Jarmusch, a film that was supposedly rejected out of Ghana. I was like, no, that can't be. It's Jim Jarmusch. And after seeing the film, I can see why that was. It's a 3-part story concerning the relationships between adult children, their somewhat distant parent or parents, and each other. A reclusive father visited by his grown children in the US, sisters visiting their novelist mother in Dublin, and adult twins called back to their Paris apartment to address a family tragedy. It's a 3-part movie that has a pretty stacked cast, and to my disappointment, I did not read that this was a 3-part story. I thought, like, oh my god, this looks like a very exciting ensemble cast. Like Adam Driver, Cate Blanchett interacting, Wiki Creeps, and then you realize, no. Tom Waits is also another highlight. But yeah, apart from, you know, maybe removing it from the win it's got, I think from collective circle of experiencing this film in Venice, there was a sort of lukewarm reaction to it. There wasn't like outright hatred, but there were some people who were saying that was such a nothing movie. They detest it. I think we both kind of landed somewhere in the middle where we see the best parts of it, aka the first part, and then it just kind of gets worse from there on out. But yeah, Kevin, what did you think?
Well, if you give it to me, I'm the first one to mention it. A lot of these scenes take place in a car. And Jim Jarmusch.
Jim Jarmusch has not sat in a car for 20 years or something. Like, I don't know, what the fuck was that?
The first time he was in the car was when they were bringing him to the red carpet. I'm like, huh? Wait, he always is in a car, but it's only on green screen. He just walks everywhere. So,
yeah.
He makes, and it's a choice. It's not like, a coincidence. It's a choice that the movie opens with Mayim Bialik and Adam Driver in a car, and they're in focus. Then the car behind them isn't, but then the background behind them is in focus. So it feels very artificial all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I think the sideways mirrors are also out of focus. Yeah. It's only the back one. It's so weird.
It is very, very weird. I also think Adam Driver's driving sucks.
Oh, sometimes it's like this.
Yeah, sometimes really it's art, but
it's intentional, right?
I get that the movie is supposed to be a bit art because the interactions they have with their father, with their mother, it's very dry. So it's very, in some ways, this movie is very Jarmusch. But I love Jim Jarmusch. I mean. You laughed about Jarmusch.
It's funny. It just sounds funny.
I love Patterson. Patterson is one of my favorite movies, and it's still, because in Patterson he still makes the mundane quite interesting, and the mundane in this movie just isn't interesting at all. The jokes that are in the first part are often repeated in the second part, but just fall flat for me. Like totally flat. The only saving grace of this movie, personally for me, is Tom Waits. Tom Waits is so electric as this mumbling guy who has a very sloppy house. Like things are laying out of order. He always needs something, and then there's a reveal that sort of is the saving grace of the first part, and then you got the second part with Cate Blanchett, Vicky Krieps, Charlotte
Rampling, who's mommy. She's not mother, she's mommy in this movie.
Oh yeah. Bro,
she called her mommy.
For a second, I didn't know what you were talking.
Not on my wavelength.
But it's just, I did not like this movie.
Even that bit fell a bit flat because it obviously is working with caricatures of characters. It's like so over the top. The first one is the most grounded. The second one goes like out there with like the two daughters, and the third one feels so disconnected in what the first two were.
But isn't necessarily bad. The third part isn't necessarily bad. It just feels out of place.
Yeah, it does feel quite out of place. And there's no other connection to these other than like a couple of recurring jokes they make about cheersing, or like a certain expression that is like British, and then when the British actually use it, it might be different. So like it's a meta level of commentary on this like threefold story that is not connected like by anything other than like some of these loose statements. And he's done movies like this before. I recently watched Night on Earth for the first time with a really like early performance from Winona Ryder, and that movie is like really rough around the edges as well. Obviously there's no fucking green screen, so it's actually them driving. It looks real, and it is real, and that's 5 taxis, 5 cities, 1 night, right? So you have a movie that is a bit longer, like about like a bit 2 hours long, 2 hours and 8 minutes with Night on Earth, and it manages to do more stories, be like better conversations, better dynamics. And at first, because we spent a lot of time in the first part in the car, I thought that it was going to be like a more modern version of Night on Earth, maybe. Like, I don't know why we spent so much time in the car. And then I just was I don't know, like by the first one I was like, by the end of it, I was like, okay, I get the comedy bits, they were decent, but you already could see like the cracks in where it's not holding together already. And then it just kind of fully broke apart more and more and fizzled out into, this is just awkward for the sake of being awkward. Yeah. And I don't know if like actual comedic bits about, it had the thing of like, you know, Vicky Creeps is an influencer, but then it is not making a joke out of her being an influencer. It's having her like talk in ways that aren't like, you know, setting up to a punchline. So it has the aspiration of maybe representing something true in like, you know, like these awkward moments that feel quite real. But I don't know where, like, it doesn't add up to anything really. And maybe like ultimately I think that ends up being the point, that it, like, there is this pointlessness of all of these interactions that feel kind of empty when you want maybe something more out of these relationships. And I honestly didn't hate the movie. I thought just like, boring.
It honestly felt so fucking long. It felt longer than some of these 2 hours and 10, 2 hours and 20 minutes movies for me personally.
Yeah, because a lot of it is literally like spend 10 seconds, no one says anything.
Looking at each other,
Yeah. And not really playful and all, just like letting you sit in there. And he also describes it as like the kind of anti-action film. It's subtle and quiet style, carefully constructed to allow small details to accumulate. And the thing is, yes, it is subtle, it is quiet, and like that's what I'm saying. Like there's no bigger statement about like someone being an influencer or someone being a suck up to like the parent, or someone constantly like paying for something for their dad, and then maybe there's an exploitation there. Like all of those things are not like, you know, hammered over your head. You're not hammered over your head with. But the thing is, they don't accumulate to something more. And he says, like, he thinks, like, it's almost like flowers being carefully placed in 3 delicate arrangements. Like, I don't know, man. They're arranged, but it's just a bunch of flowers. Like, I don't care. So,
and I guess when we've talked about the movie now, I guess we could talk about some things in the larger scheme, with the fact that this movie did win the Golden Lion. And again, did Alexander Payne give this movie to his best buddy? I don't know. Does it help that this movie is released by Mubi, who is, you know, has some scandalous thing already behind it, being backed by Israeli companies or something? It has my Yim Bialik in it, who is apparently a Zionist, or also has some shit behind.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And the fact that got the win over The Voice of Hind, Rajab. And again, I think Yannick is the one that has said it the best in terms of, this movie is gonna be a fart in the wind. It's gonna just it's just gonna be gone in a month or two. When it has done its rounds, is going to be forgotten in the space of time. And I tend to agree with him. I might have added the fart in the wind section myself, though. I don't think Yannick would say that.
No, that sounds like a very... what do you say? Who said it? Alex? Or?
Yannick.
Yannick. Oh, no, I thought you quoted Alex. Because if you quoted Alex, that definitely could have been... Yeah, I think he tweeted about it as well. That it's like the since Crash...
No, was that Luke?
Oscar win.
That was Luke, I think.
Let's check real quick.
Oh, you want to?
Only takes 2 seconds.
Man wants to fact check. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, let's correctly quote our buddies. He tweets too much, though. Well, he said Jim Jarmusch's Father, Mother, Sister, Brother goes right on the list of worst films of the year. Pointless, boring, drivel. This is student film bad. Even the actors in it look like they have no idea what they're doing or saying. I should have been canned. It's terrible. I do agree partly with like some of the like wardrobe choices. Obviously there's like a theme of like them matching. They look incredibly amateurish. That is something to that.
Oh yeah, but the fact that we're wearing the same clothes is a bit as well, right?
Yeah.
If we talk about things in the grand scheme about the Golden Lion win, just any other movie that is just of a higher caliber. We've talked about Frankenstein, we've talked about No Other Choice. Any of those 2 movies winning the Golden Lion, everyone would have been at least like, oh, I get it. Okay, fine, they can live with it. with this movie, because our jury grid gave it a 2.82, so everybody agrees unanimously. It's like, it's not good, it's not bad, it's just mid, and there are so many other movies that are better than this. Even the fact that Alexander Payne says this is not in the top 8. The top 8 of this competition. Right.
It's crazy.
Crazy. So, yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 10. You gave it a 6 out of 10. Are you going to change your mind?
No, I think I need a rewatch, but I honestly, like, there was some, I didn't completely hate all of it.
Okay.
I just thought it was like a very much nothing movie. Bro, 6 out of 10. We say, like, it's fine. You can see it if you're interested.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it. It's crazy that one gets the
Golden Line. Yeah. So, Ewan, let's talk about the biggest surprise of the film festival. The Disney Plus logo popping off before Wizard of the Kremlin.
That was pretty crazy, yeah. So this one is a novel adaptation from something that was written, I believe, in 2022 by Giuliano de Empoli, an Italian-Swiss novelist. It is a French novel, though. That's why, like, the title of it was surprisingly, even though it's an American production by Oliver Assayas, who's I guess is a French director. So it's messy. Europe gets messy, but it's The Wizard of the Kremlin. This is a movie where Jude Law plays Vladimir Putin, and Paul Dano is sort of his right hand man. And we see his like rise to fall as a human and all of his morals, and him be like in love with Alicia Vikander's character. This comes in at a runtime that is over 2.5 hours long, and it is set in Russia in the early 90s. Amid post-Soviet chaos, a brilliant young man, Vadim Baranov, charts his path. First an artist, then a reality TV producer, he becomes the spin doctor to a rising KGB agent, Vladimir Putin. At the heart of power, Baranov shapes the new Russia, blurring the boundaries between truth and lies, belief and manipulation. Only the magnetic Ksenia is beyond his control, tempting him away from his dangerous game. Years later, after retreating into silence and shrouded in mystery, Baranov finally opens up, revealing the dark secrets of the regime he helped build. Now, I'm gonna come in hot and say, like, I don't know how much of like that ending part is actually true, because this whole movie is very much interested in like exploring that sort of, on a surface level, even though it's over 2.5 hours long, that relationship he has with Ksenia, who's played by Alicia Vikander, and him kind of, you know, that's the only person he sort of can control. Yes, I see that, but then also very much you know, giving us a like overview of the Russia of that time and like the early parts of the regime of Putin. I think for me, I wanted to get a bit more out of this, Kevin, I don't know how much you know about like Russia's history and the conflicts and the rise of Putin and all that. Not the Canadian one. Yeah, what did you think of the Wizard of the Kremlin?
Again, I think the comparison to The Apprentice is an inevitable one, because, you know, last year you got Trump, this year you got Putin. They're both made from a director from a different country, and this movie also has the sort of same structure as Frankenstein, in the sense of we get a story that's being retold by Paul Dano to Jeffrey Wright, who again isn't that much into the movie, but hey, he tweets once and he's like, and Paul Dano is like, you're invited to the house, brother. So it's a bit shallow in that regard. But yeah, some again, because they're going back to the Cold War, and you know, how are we going to create this propaganda? And it didn't, you know, I guess the movie sort of combats the fact that Putin only has yes men surrounded around him, because you do have people that are against Putin, being like, are you sure you want to move on like this? And, you know, obviously he's like, yes, I want to do it my way. I'm the commander that the people want. So again, in that aspect, the movie is quite interesting to see. But we do see it from Paul Dano's perspective, and Jude Law isn't necessarily that much in this movie, as, you know, The Apprentice where it's very much about Sebastian Stan portraying Donald Trump. I really like Paul Dano's performance. I do think it's a quiet performance, but I do think Paul Dano can do no wrong, because it's somebody who has never given me a bad performance. So
no, you know what? His performance feels like this. Like someone in the corner just like putting the fingers together. Like that's how it feels.
And he's very much traveling all over the place as well. So you do get many locations, but they're mostly inside hotel buildings. So
what I felt about this is like, yes, it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes long, but
long.
The for the amount that it covers, it still feels like in a lot of ways it only gets to like lightly touch on them. Yeah. When there's more to this. There's like, I think I don't really usually like to say, oh, this would have been better as a movie, or would have been better as a miniseries. This would have been better as a miniseries, in my opinion. Like there's way more like actual political background to be explored here. Now, if the book that this is based on gives that much context, probably not, but I think I get the easy way out a lot, where we sort of like going back and forth of like playing catch up with what he's been up to, what he's been a part of, and he gets to take a step back and say like, oh, I was the man in the shadows, like pulling the strings, but we don't like explicitly get him to like, I don't know, confirm what he did specifically. It's just from a larger removed point of like the regime that he supports, and he is able to like have his fingers everywhere and manipulate everyone. And for that, I find the most interesting part about this film is like the world that we live in, that is very much under the influence of these people, and like how much they see just like the repercussions play out in front of them, as not as individual people, but who they can manipulate. And the portrait of like someone who goes from an artist being interesting to a few people to one that is like captivating the masses with entertainment, with reality TV, to influencing everyone to bend to their will and like like rule over a people in the way that you seem fit, or that someone else see fit, and you are the one pulling the strings. I think that is an interesting progression that I think we don't really see this character make at all. It's just like, it's him, and he feels like the same person all the way through, because we get it through the context of him being removed in this interview later on, which makes no sense to me of like how he goes about explaining this. Like, if you want that narrative framing of retelling these stories and saying like, we go back and forth, and it's just it's good for the Lion King, but maybe not for like a political, like for a political movie like this, which feels pretty lackluster in what it actually has to say.
The only real overarching thing in the movie that's interesting to me is the role of technology. That's literally the only one. Is interesting to me, how they're using TV, state TV, later the internet, because they are doing very blatant title sequences that's like, it's about this. So with like a very like graphic thing. So yeah, that's the only thing that interested me. Alicia Vikander is massively underused. Like, she's barely in the movie. I guess Jude Law is really is good as Putin.
I liked him a lot.
I liked him a lot as well. He definitely has again, it's not an imitation, but he definitely has the characteristics of Putin down. And Paul Dano, while being a very quiet and sneaky guy behind the curtain, you do like him going around trying to do the things he has to do in order to be successful in his job. And I guess the ending is trying to be a shocker ending, but it wasn't for me personally at all.
I don't even remember how the movie ended, to be honest. Oh yeah, well, I need to blur that. Blur it.
Blur my mouth, please. What the fuck, man?
Yeah, it definitely is quite shocking. I don't know if that's like based in any sort of thing, but it feels very much still like the powers in place are still there. So it's something that it's not like we tell a story that has wrapped up and it's like, oh, look at this like scary past, but it's like, no, look at the scary past then
it's still
being relevant in the present. And I think then it needs to have a bit more juice. It needs to have a bit more and not lose itself in like trying to tell a love story in the middle where they're like, sure, maybe the guy was like, ponying over some woman that he couldn't manipulate into like liking him or like what he actually wanted. But like, I don't know, man. It's just like, it doesn't really come together that way. Yeah, I wanted to like this more because in its best version, this could be a really great movie.
I mean, it could be on the same level as The Apprentice for me, but it isn't.
Yeah, it isn't. There's something missing. Our jury grid agreed. This didn't even get a average rating on our jury grid. It got a 2.75. It got better ratings from us. Kevin, you're the highest.
I actually would like to lower it to 6.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I only gave it a 7 because I was obligated to for the jury grid. But if I had my choice, I would lower it to a 6.5 out of 10.
Sure, that is fine by me. I'm gonna stick with my 6 out of 10 rating. I don't think if there's anything comparable to it, so there is like, maybe there's some value in just like, knowing a bit more about like Russian history and who's pulling the strings through this. But you're probably better served just
again.
A couple of Wikipedia articles.
I'm still dumbfounded that people are gonna go to Disney Plus and then all of a sudden see this.
It is crazy. Like, it was literally like the Disney Plus logo.
I mean, people were laughing, confused, being like, "Huh?" when they know the minute they saw the logo.
Like, this platform. Crazy.
Wow, look at this shill. Guys, he gets paid to give positive reviews. Retcon him.
I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. Don't go see it. Sponsored by Disney Plus. Let's talk about The Testament of Anne Lee, a film that was shown on a beautiful 65mm film, I believe, or no, 75.
Whoa,
70.
In the recap, you say 75, and now you're gonna say 65. What's...
No, wait, it was a different. No, wait. I'm gonna restart this. But the thing is,
you better include the fact you got the aspect ratio.
No. The thing is, no. It's not like that. I got it wrong because I don't know what the normal 70mm aspect ratio is. It's because there was one movie where it was different. This was 35mm.
What?
And then the printed format was 70mm.
Oh, so it was shown in 70mm.
Yeah.
So you
interesting, but the negative format was 35.
Okay, but that means you did still get it wrong, though.
I know that, but there was one movie that was like in 65. Because
you can look it up, guys. Again, be patient. He's fact checking himself once again.
I typed in 65mm film and it autocorrected to 75 to 70. So. God damn it. No, the last film shot on 65 was The Master. Well, this is the latest collaboration between the brutalist director Brady Corbet and Mana Fastful. This is her movie, though, and it's the epic fable about a religious leader, Anne Lee, the founding leader of the Shaker movement, who was proclaimed by her followers as the female Christ and went on to build one of the largest utopian societies in American history. Lee, one of the rare female religious heads at the time, and her followers worshipped through exuberant song and dance. And this is why this movie got labeled early on as like a musical. We both wouldn't describe it as a musical. It stars Amanda Seyfried in the titular role of Anne Lee, as well as Thomasin McKenzie, Lewis Pullman, Stacey Martin, Tim Blake Nelson, and Christopher Abbott. It's a bit more than 2 hours long and was shown on 70mm film in the Sala d'Arsena. It shot on 35mm, but then was screened on 70, which unfortunately came with a lack of subtitles. On the print itself, it only had Italian ones, and so Kevin got to read Dio 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 over and over again, and because of your hard of hearing condition, you are like really relying on those subtitles. So I want to hear from you first, like what was your experience like, just the vibe of Testament of Anne Lee.
In our picks for our personal jury prizes, I made the argument that House of Dynamite deserves screenplay and not Testament of Anne Lee, because the facets that are the strongest in the Testament of Anne Lee are the directing, are the performances, are the basically the choreography. Even though it's not really a musical, according to the both of us, and also if we are shouting out our fellow jury grid members, also to Clotilde from Loud and Clear Reviews, she also said like this is really a musical, because it is not that they really break out into a song. They rarely do, even if at all. I don't really remember exactly. So this is purely a vibe review from Kevin. And it is very much a spectacle. Again, boat scene is so good. Because they go to the US to spread their religion, and that boat scene, like they're basically converting everyone on the boat as well. That's when the fanatical movement that the Shakers are is the most tangible, right? Because you're converting everyone on a boat. It would be more difficult to do that on land.
Yeah.
So, and again, costumes, directing, cinematography, it is all stunning, but it just left me a bit shallow because I didn't really get to know the person that Anne Lee was. It's very much like, hey, here's the woman who lost 4 children, but now she's a religious figure. And now everybody follows her. Like, that's sort of the maximum I got. But that is because I didn't get the subtitles. Maybe we need the opinion of someone who did understand the movie, or at least like 70% more than me. Back to over to Ewan.
Yeah, I agree with like most of the points that you made. That like you don't get like a character study of this person. It's very much not really judging her followers, not judging her, not really placing like a specific cause for her fanaticism, or if it's a good or bad thing. Like it really doesn't. It just puts her in place in the world that she lives in, where she's like persecuted for just being a woman who wants to like speak in church or even be in church, and like taking on these roles is very much like on line with just a whatever the movement is to be a leader as a woman at the time. I think is just as much the focus as the religion is, at least in the subtext. What Mona also describes in her statement was that like her radical pursuit of self-fashioned utopia speaks to the creative impulse at the heart of all artistic endeavor, the urgent need to shape the world anew. That urgentness, if that's a word, like how urgent it is, it comes through, and that sort of expression that comes through them shaking and them dancing like all night long. That intensity is like, that's in the performances, that's in how you capture it, and that really comes through. I think in its best case, the movie tries to like get you in this trance alongside them, that you like fully feel the sort of, I don't know, that you feel so connected with them and what they do. Maybe not believe the same things, celibacy, that they, like not fully buy into their world and want to join their people. You get why this sort of community forms around her. And I think it's like through that, like you said, with the like screenplay, it is very loose in what it does. That's like, it's not really tight, and it is quite messy. And I thought that to be like a strength. I thought that to be like pretty clear, because like her vision is so clear in what she needs to do. It's all of the obstacles along the way for her, and to see that those obstacles just be in the way of like patriarchy, this colonialist like setup that it has, like in the like late 1700s in the early United States, and how she like has that sort of view of that feels pure, like it is purely her opinion. So when she sees something wrong, she starts screaming shame to someone. Like it's very much just not holding back your thoughts and opinions at a time where a woman was there to give birth, and that being taken away from her is like sort of almost like a catalyst where it doesn't get conformed into the role that she's supposed to play in this world that she's in, and breaks through and creates a whole own path. I don't know if I like fully feel like that movie manages to represent all of that, but I get that, like, that's what it's going for, and it's immaculately made. It looks stunning. There's like the boat scene is great. There's also a scene with like fire at one point that I was like, that's ingrained into my mind. That looks spectacular.
I mean, it also both made us think about Harvest, a movie we watched last year at the Venice Film Festival. Feel free, if you watch the movie, to let us know about Amanda Seyfried's Manchester accent, because it's they do talk a bit old Englishy. But in terms of the Manchester accent we know of today, it doesn't really sound the same. So I'm sort of wondering, did she get away with it or not? Because of its old school Englishy or not?
I did make a mistake. Sorry, it's not on VistaVision. That was Bugonia, but I mistakenly thought it was VistaVision.
You misinformed me.
I did.
This is why we
one battle after
people.
another. I know. I literally did in a moment. Before you said it, I just erased it. I guess you just didn't see it. Yeah, but what do you think, like rating wise, you'd give it? Even though it's a bit harder for you to rate. Like, do you feel comfortable rating it?
How about we give it on the vibe check? How about I give it about the same rating as the Jure grade? I'll go 7.5, right? Because that's
sounds good.
And I'll take the aggregate of the.
And I'm at an 8. For us going forward, we do know that these screenings that happen to be on film in a different theater, they do have subtitles. So going forward in the future, we'll make sure that we are in those screenings, so we actually get
honestly that should be a note for the Venice Film Festival as well.
It should.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about The Smashing Machine. This got Bene Safdie the Best Director Award at the Venice Film Festival. Kevin is boxing you. Ow. Ouch. Ow. And it's the story of the legendary mixed martial artist and UFC fighter Mark Kerr. There was a documentary made in 2002 that is basically taking the exact same story of this movie. It feels more like Bene Safdie adapted that documentary into a feature than it, to me at least, seems like he took the real life story of Mark Kerr. That's a bit of a frontier, I guess. But what did you think about this one? Like, obviously neither of us, I think, are much interested in martial arts. I don't know if you watched The Rock when he was still like a UFC fighter a lot, but this definitely marks like a wrestler, like a turning point for him as an actor. That is, at one point was the highest paid actor in Hollywood, and this is one of his like first, definitely the most serious like dramatic role that he takes on. So what did you think about all of that? I
mean, obviously one of the first movies that I saw him in, even like when I was 8 or like 9, because you had like a certain action channel in Belgium and they showed the rundown quite a few times. And he has like a couple of serious roles, like he has the rundown, Walking Tall, he has Southland Tales, and even Pain and Gain, like those were roles where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was showing a bit of a range, right? And then you get the G.I. Joes, the Fast and Furious, Hercules, San Andreas, and the Central Intelligence, and hell, even Rampage, So those are The Rock roles, right? Those are not Dwayne Johnson anymore. That's The Rock playing The Rock. And there are some people... What?
Just picturing the Social Network scene is like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's like, no, drop The Rock, it's cleaner. It's like for his Oscar campaign.
But you always hear the same 3 names when talking about wrestlers turned actors, right? And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is often the 3rd person on that list. The other 2 people being John Cena and Dave Bautista. And the Smashing Machine, brings somewhat life to that debate of who is 3rd place, because Dwayne Johnson is really good in this role. He's not, because I did see a video of like saying Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson looks invisible in this role, which he doesn't.
But there's one scene where like has a shaved head for the role as Mark Kerr as well. I'm like, the Rock just said, this is the Fast and Furious now. he has to like typical like smirk smile. Like, I was like, God damn it, like that is not Mark Kerr anymore.
The Smashing Machine itself Very generic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you've seen the documentary, and it even when watching the movie and not knowing the documentary, you can really imagine that this is a very clean version. And I don't know what the reason is why they didn't lean more into that raunchy lifestyle that Mark Kerr had when he began as a UFC fighter, because at a certain moment you say, oh, there's like a shot in the documentary where he has like 15 needles on the bathroom floor, in the sink, I don't know where exactly, but in the movie it's only like 2, and he's like just injecting one. So it is very much a cleaned up version of the story. Is that to protect Dwayne The Rock Johnson's image, to not, you don't know the reason.
I think they want it to be a bit more of like sort of he's hiding it from his partner.
Right.
So we are like finding out with the partner, and he's actively like trying to hide it, and she knows more and gives us the context. So a lot of it is not, it's unfortunately like a lot of it is through dialogue that we get revealed what is happening, but I felt like it's way more powerful if you can give that just like a look between those two, and you can fully sense like what the core issue is. But then their relationship is so blown up, that's the nature. That's also in the documentary, that it's not like overemphasized or to like a big extent. Also, obviously you can add those moments that are private between those two and fill in the blanks where there wouldn't have been a documentary crew like filming. There's a couple of moments where they actually are filming, which is like quite crazy, where like shit gets thrown around and like plates fly and whatever. But I also don't think it's like explored too much where like there's this willingness to hurt yourself and numb yourself out, and then continue to be in a relationship that like both people are like hurting each other. There seems to be like a more genuine care, so the focus is placed, at least in the second half of the movie, a bit more on that relationship, where obviously the documentary can't do that, but the first part of it feels just a one-to-one adaptation of that documentary. And I was like, this gets best director, where it feels like the aesthetic is like, yes, that like late 90s look, but that's just what it looked like in the documentary. So it feels not really like very imaginative of how to tell this story. This one is the one that filmed on 65mm. Oh my god, Kevin, this is shot on 16mm and 65mm, and I'm actually fact checking it because like in another movie I wasn't sure. Okay, this is the one outlier, the Smashing Machine. The Rock like threw me off balance. Yes, it says 60mm Kodak Vision Free and then 65mm horizontal. And there was one scene that was shot in or there was in IMAX as well. I don't know if this is all just a mess and all wrong, but there's a specific look to it that I think is not really that special, but it's just it works perfect because it was shot on film, so it looks a specific way. To me, the highlight in the documentary and in this film is a really direct conversation he has with his good friend, who's also a UFC fighter, who after he overdoses comes to his bedside and talks to him, and is really direct. But that relationship is like, I think that scene they nailed. But it was also based on the documentary. That scene in that moment in real life was really powerful, and they do it justice. But again, I felt like you said, it felt a bit safe. Like do a bit more about it. Like it didn't feel like the Iron Claw, where like you actually change up. Like you get rid of like one of the brothers, and you like condense the story down to what you actually want to say. Like that movie had way more of like, something to say, something to build towards.
Well, if I have to compare it to another movie, I would say Warrior. Like, I feel it takes a lot of beats from Warrior in terms of commentary, in terms of the start of this tournament, because while Warrior is mostly fiction, it does have the same tournament format of like, hey, at the end we're doing 16 or like 8 guys, then they're battling to each other and they have to move on to the next round, and then they're fighting each other. So it has a lot of beat. Hell, even Emily Blunt's character just looks like the most basic boxing wife of all time. We joke, like Twitter jokes about this a lot, or like just even film community jokes a lot about how these how the women of the fighters in boxing or in any fighting sports, just looks a certain way, and she just looks exactly the same way.
What's so funny is like I got the same. I noticed this way more like last year. That like the wives and partners of hockey players, ice hockey players, so many of them are just like blonde. And that's all, I can't see more, like they're just all blonde. I don't know why. It's weird.
But yeah, the Smashing Machine just feels very generic. And while actually, in terms, if we are talking about a highlight, Dwayne Johnson is really scenes. Good. But Ryan Bader, who plays Mark Coleman, I thought did an excellent job for someone who has never acted besides one WWE movie. Probably where he's probably himself. So if this is his first acting role, I'm excited to see what he can do, because he did feel a bit like Frank Grillo in Warrior, for example. But I really like the chemistry between him and the Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Yeah.
He also gets like part of the Smashing Machine documentary. He takes a quite large part of that documentary in it.
Like his character or his character, you mean?
The real person.
The real person, yeah, exactly.
Is in the documentary, like it goes to him, visits him at home, and it kind of leads into the hospital thing, and then it also, like, that's why I'm saying like the movie is so close to the documentary, that like even the culmination of it all, like ending with
I think the director of the documentary is like an executive producer or like a producer on this as well.
Right. Yeah.
Not sure. I think it's probably executive producer or like advisor.
Which I think is maybe it's a good thing. It doesn't overemphasize things in any sort of way.
Or like fictionalize things.
Yeah, fictionalize it, and it does feel like it adds that post addendum in a way of like checking up on Marker in present day. The 2025 Scottsdale,
and in terms
Arizona
of because
update.
the movie, is about the unsung heroes of MMA, because MMA wasn't as popular, but I didn't really feel the popularity of the MMA as well, which might have been the point.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, hey, he was really like a founding father of MMA. That I didn't really feel. I felt
it's also
like
the part of like.
But
this addiction to the like pain, like this opioids, right? That he had while fighting is like one of his early quotes is you just try to punch the other guy more than he punches you. Some sort of similar thing like
if
that.
If he's gonna hurt me, I'm gonna hurt him before he hurts me. Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is, yes, that logic goes as far as like he's unbeaten, and then it all crumbles down when he does get beaten. So that hurt is something that you can't protect yourself from with drugs. You can just numb yourself out. Yeah. And I think he really loses himself in that. And I appreciate that it doesn't like oversimplify that in this movie, but it also doesn't give me much more on like the actual process of this person. Like I feel like I understood as much about like Marker as a person watching the documentary as it did with this movie. And fictionalized things, you can maybe process it a bit more with the input of a person, like dramatize those bits. I can take it both ways. It's not like a huge criticism, but because it's always it's often something that we criticize other movies for if they feel like they are like oversimplifying, over explaining someone, reducing them as like a person down. So I think there's a lot of respect there. It's a great sports movie, and a movie about addiction. But
do we have anything to say about Benny Safdie himself? For me, he just does a serviceable job, right? I mean, I know he won director, and I know he produced it as well. He edited it himself. But I know some people are doing like, which Safdie is the better director, because you also have that now with Coen, right? With the Coen brothers. So you have that same
I think it's too early to say. I think with Joel and Ethan, it's so clear who likes what. One the comedic, the other one's like the overly dramatic, like best of both worlds together. And
but from what I have seen,
we'll have to wait and see from Marty Supreme. What I've seen
from the Marty Supreme trailer alone, like it does look way more electric than the Smashing Machine. Although I've seen the Smashing Machine trailer, and the Smashing Machine trailer is almost better than the movie itself. I dare say that. Like the Smashing Machine trailer is, immensely well done.
Sports movie trailers they can have some magic to it. But yeah, we both gave this a 7 out of 10. On our jury grid, it's literally like it's a 7 out of no wait,
it's a 6.5 out of 10.
6.5. Yeah, it's a 3.25 out of 5. There were a couple of people who didn't really love it. It was no one that like absolutely loved this one.
I think everyone just said it's pretty generic. It's I know I've said it a few times, but that's really the sentiment I've heard from all the people I've talked to. So yeah. But will Dwayne Johnson get his Oscar nomination?
Who knows?
Time will tell.
You decide. Actually, we don't decide.
No.
An audience member, unless you are like an Academy voting body. I don't know who's watching these videos.
L'étranger, also known as The Stranger, is the newest movie from François Ozon, also known from The Summer of '85, Swimming Pool, Young and Beautiful. And the synopsis goes as follows. In 1930s Algeria, Frenchman Meursault, emotional detachment leads to a murder, scrutinized by a skeptical trial, adapted from Camus' The Stranger. It's a very famous book that I personally have not read, and the director also had his own personal history to the book. As he said in the director's statement, my maternal grandfather was an examining magistrate in Bonn, Algeria, and he escaped an attack in 1956, which hastened my family's return to mainland France. While working on documents and archives and meeting historians and witnesses of the time, I realized to what extent French families all have some connection with Algeria, and that a heavy silence still often weighs upon our shared histories. Now, personally, I did not see any of that damn thing he said in the movie itself. I'm gonna be brutally honest. For me, L'étranger works way better as a character piece. But Ewan, what do you think about L'étranger?
I mean, it's the sort of thing they got the Albert Camus, very famous novel at the basis of it all. I literally in a tab in another thing, I have it open. I haven't decided yet if I'm ordering it in French or in an English translation, but I'm buying that book because I want to read it. Not for this review specifically, it's very too late. I used to, but like 8-10 years ago for school. I had to do one of my exams, not at uni, but like college.
Would you struggle if you read it in French or not?
I would struggle, but like maybe it's like. There's also a version of it that has like German explanations at the bottom.
You don't want anything getting lost in translation, right?
No, nothing lost in translation. Yeah. I don't know. What to me was the standout is, we have an actor who leads this with Benjamin Voisin, literally my neighbor, and I think he was great in The Quiet Son, like Jouer avec le feu. And we both really liked that movie. That was, I think, 2 years ago now, coming out of Venice.
Last year.
Was it last year?
Yeah, last year.
Because we were saying like the year then was like the Italian
and it came out
better.
this year in some countries, so that's why it's another case of spillover. It did a 2024, 2025 film, but
I'm not too familiar with the director, François Ozon. Like I haven't seen Summer of '85, Swimming Pool, Young and Beautiful. All of those movies, I hear some so-la-la things about them, but I think this is like novel adaptation where the novel itself is like, do you get the essence of it? I don't know what the essence is, so I can take the movie by itself, which is pretty much like a vibe movie for a lot of it. You just go around with this guy who's seemingly very cool because he doesn't give a shit about anything, and then you see like, oh, is it cool to give a shit about nothing? Is it cool to be like in a relationship where you're giving nothing to the other person, where you're like a fucking Reddit cringe load about like, oh, actually our /atheist type of opinions that he sort of has, of like a put on stoicness of how he just completely has the world figured out, because if it doesn't move me, then I don't fake anything, I'm just blatantly honest. I was like, well, are you just being dishonest with yourself in a way? Like, are you like maybe ignoring some things that you maybe should think about and should move you? And I think this movie doesn't like give me too much in interpreting all of that, but it is like, it's a French movie. There's a bit of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and there's a certain essence to it that I don't mind. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but like there's a certain Frenchness to it that it is like, even though it's heavier, there's a certain flow to it that makes it still enjoyable to watch. Like, it's 2 hours long. I did feel the runtime towards the end, but I thought the first half of it was like it was not much was happening, but it felt like it was free flowing in a quite entertaining way.
Yeah, for me, again, like I said, I think it works really good as a character piece, because this guy, I don't know, sociopath, a nihilist, someone who doesn't have much empathy, even when, he is on a trial and the love of his life is there making a case for him. Even then, he really isn't showing much. And, again, that's sort of a fascinating thing to me, because it's like, really, even at that moment, you're still so behind the wall from the rest of the world, and that's why I really liked it. I think the black and white really helps in this movie. But especially because the world isn't always black and white, but for this guy, it sort of is. And another special standout for me, because it's very much a philosophical debate between him and a priest in his cell, and just the dialogue that happens there, the cases that are being made for humanity, and why you should care, why he doesn't care, why he should follow religion or not, in the case of the priest, was a very tasty scene for me.
Mm-hmm. So it's also, by the way, the guy who was in I'm trying to find it, who the actor's name is, but the guy who plays the priest was, I noticed that he's in the cast, but I was wondering, okay, when does he pop up? Swan Arlo, who was also in Anatomy of a Fall. I saw him on the list, was like, wait, he hasn't popped up in this movie yet, and then he has this integral scene, which I believe is probably why a lot of people also love the novel, or the novella. And to me, that scene, it was too much. Not in a bad way. It was too much, that not in a bad way. Not the scene was too much, the things they were talking about. It was too much to take in, looking at them and reading the subtitles, because I think there was so much happening. Where I wanted to study their faces, but I also couldn't, I didn't understand the French enough to not look at the subtitles. So it's one scene that I definitely a moment that I do want to rewatch.
Not a problem for me. I read subtitles so quickly, and I'm kidding.
you can do it. But I think some people were a bit more lukewarm on it. I'm also not giving it a super high rating, a bit different than you are. But I also like the part of it where it's confronted with this. It's not commented on, but the whole society is treating the Algerian people as a collective Arabs, and the victim is not this person, it's an Arab who did this thing, and this sort of disregard feels like he is at least to me completely could be completely different in the way that the novel is interpreted, is that it's the sort of ignorance from a whole nation towards another one, that ultimately it's his own plight that is at the center of this, should he have visited his mother, which is called out in the trial as well. It's he's not on trial for visiting his mother and grieving her or not, it's because he killed someone, and that seems to be the lesser problem to a nation. It is about that is not the moral dilemma here, because we couldn't care less about the Arab he killed. And I found that part to be it was never framing that, right? It was you pick up on that as an audience member, right? Hopefully. I think that was one of the stronger parts, when I found the lead obviously very frustrating, because he was giving me nothing, and then until he hopefully finally gives me something.
I gave it an 8 out of 10. I really liked it. So you gave it a 6 out of 10. The jury gave it a 3.11 out of 5. So
it's just, maybe 6.5. Maybe 6.5.
Maybe the movie will grow once you read the novel. It'll be a grower.
It will. Maybe we'll grow her. And hopefully we'll show her in some theaters. Definitely in the French ones, but we'll see if this one will get a wider release internationally. Then something that will definitely get a release wide and on streaming is slated from Catherine Bigelow. A House of Dynamite is premiering in a few weeks in theaters and select theaters on October 3rd, and then is out on Netflix on the 24th. And it has a really star-studded cast. The latest film from Catherine Bigelow. The tagline reads, "Not if, when a single unattributed missile is launched at the United States, a race begins to determine who is responsible and how to respond." And Kevin, give me the cast of this, because it's pretty impressive, right?
Oh yeah, you got Idris Elba, Rebecca Ferguson, Jared Harris, Tracy Letts, Anthony Ramos, Greta Lee, Jason Clarke. You got a bunch of others that I'm not really gonna name.
Willa Fitzgerald, come on, she was in Nature. And Willa Fitzgerald, you know her.
Oh yeah.
Moses Ingram as well. This is a rich ensemble cast that you feel like, oh, that might be too many people if they're all in the same scene. Well, you're in luck, because this movie is like basically split into 3 parts that is the same part played over and over again as this missile is inbound to hit the continental United States. Tensions are high, at least in the first part, because we then know what is going to play out. So this movie ends up being way more about the process of how do these different departments from the Wild House, certainly at the moment it's the Wild House, the White House, what is it, like not the panic room, but like crisis center or whatever it's whatever.
Room, yeah.
And then Anthony Ramos is like placed in Alaska at like one of the military bases, and then we got the Pentagon perspective, or like some sub-level that is controlling something as well, and then POTUS as he's like on the move, played by Idris Elba. And oh, would he be a perfect president? What a hero. And I think some of the people were expecting a different type of movie. We also, if you look at the synopsis, it's not giving you anything that this is going to be the same story repeated 3 times. You expect a sort of political thriller that you can like in the shooting style, documentary like a bit with Catherine Bigelow that you might be, expecting. And then it is a bit different. It is a bit more giving you a bit more time to like contemplate what this actually means. Not giving you much, because it's like the same tense moments over and over again. But it's essentially just like keeping you in the loop of like, oh, when is this missile going to hit? Which is a larger reflection on like the state that we've been in since the Cold War, And I think that's kind of smart. It's kind of, it's edging us to the end of the world. I was like, oh my God, yes. maybe not the best phrasing. Kevin, you talk.
So yeah, it indeed doesn't tell you much about the structure of the film. I haven't even seen the trailer yet, so I don't know how.
I haven't either, but it's one out. There's one out there.
Yeah, there's one out there. But it is essentially, we see Anthony Ramos being in the military bunker, the discovery of the rocket, how we could potentially stop it, and then you see the reaction of the 3 departments. The cast highlights, if we need to highlight any, because it is a pretty stacked one, I would say Idris Elba, Rebecca Ferguson, and Tracy Letts are the 3 people that stand out the most. Each have their own unique reaction to the nuke, and that is probably why they stand out compared to the rest. And it is indeed, again, because it is same story told 3 times, a lot of people will love the first part, and a lot of people will either be up for the second and third part or be absolutely let down by the second and third part, especially in the way,
especially by the third one,
and the way it wraps up its story. And the tagline might just sort of hint at the way the story wraps up. But I've also read something that Catherine Bigelow is especially drawn to this story because obviously in the Cuban missile crisis and in that whole thing, you had some sort of regulation behind nuclear weapons, and apparently the only like real lost legislation about the nuclear weapon regulation this expires in 2026. So
it is
okay. So this is why this is such a timely movie. I don't know what else really to say without sort of spoiling the movie. It is very, very difficult.
The point is sort of, to discuss is in the core message of the movie, which is inherently the whole point of it, and the spoiler. I think one of the things that wouldn't be necessarily considered as a spoiler is like the way that I guess the president is supposed to like, you know, have the options open of how to react, retaliate, negotiate, like what's going on there. And like it's interesting to watch this and then consistently have like the ticking in the back of your mind. It's like it's just, it feels like a lot of intentional narrative framing and direction that might be lost or you might not connect to. It's going to be like a hotly discussed movie.
And if we have to, you know, sort of say which are the stronger parts, I would say that first part is the strongest part because the story is still sort of fresh to you, but it still manages to pull me in. But I totally acknowledge the fact that some people will be absolutely disappointed by it. And I do think the third part is the second strongest part, because as we've said, the first part takes place in the White House Situation Room, which you would think the President of the United States is in as well, but he's actually on the move because he's gone to like a benefit or something for basketball kids, and so he has to make the decision on the move, which I also think is a, you know, like a scary reality of like not being in the right place at the right
and his
time.
wife being like with like an elephant excursion somewhere in like Africa, and that sort of and then like, you know, everyone waiting on someone to respond when no one really knows what to do properly,
like all the calculations
it's also
have to come in, that whole thing.
And I said it's like it's very scary. If you want to want to launch a weapon at the United States, you would do it exactly like this, with a confusion as to who fired it from, and like that they break it down in a pretty, you know, as Bigelow is known for like her connections with the military, of getting that accurate. It feels like the people, how lost they feel. It is like something that is pretty tangible, and it's like based in reality, and it's not like some hyper sort of military thriller thing that feels like it is more fiction than reality, and that is like, oof, there's just something to it that is quite heavy.
I guess the only negative we both have is because of the way this is structured. Indeed, you do have some. For example, Caitlin Dever shows up in this movie, but you know, it's because every character gets attributed a single thing, because you know they do have to have something behind them to make us care about them as characters, and because of the structuring of the movie, that unfortunately isn't possible. But I understand why. But I get again why some people might be frustrated.
Like, we need the introduction to be in like 1/3, when usually in a movie you would build that up over a longer time. So it feels a bit abbreviated. I think one of the things that also are a bit cheesy is that we get to hear the same lines just on one side of the telephone, then on the other side, or like of a call, and then the same lines are repeated. And by the end, by the end of the movie, there's some cheesy lines. Some people were repeating the lines back to the screen, like saying them out loud.
I didn't hear that.
There's a bit of an audience problem maybe, but I also felt like I know what's coming, because it's like the third time.
But they do expand on that thing, so that's why I'm also not, again, sort of.
Yeah, I didn't see it like, but I saw some people like moment by moment take this movie way less seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I give it a 7 out of 10.
I gave it an 8 out of 10. I mean, it's in my top 10 of this festival. The discourse around this movie will be very interesting to see. Like, will it actually be positive? Will people really talk more about that first part, or will they say, that second and third, blah? I mean, we'll
wait
see.
for the internet video of like Pentagon employee breaks down. House of Dynamite.
What in that channel? Is that GQ?
There's a bunch of them. Everyone does
I watched them, like Sniper breaks down, you know. I do love that. I do love those videos. So.
I don't know if we said, but on our jury grid it's a 3.65 out of 5. There were some people who really didn't like it, hated it, gave it like a 1 out of 5.
Shout out to Ben, who just threw up his arms like this, like, what?
There were also some people who ended up giving it like a 5 out of 5. You know, it was
all over the place.
Range of emotions for this one. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the Silver Lion winner, the voice of Hind Rajab. This one is about the events that took place on January 29th in 2024. The Red Crescent volunteers receive an emergency call. A 6-year-old girl is trapped in a car under fire in Gaza, pleading for rescue. While trying to keep her on the line, they do everything they can to get an ambulance to her. Her name was Hind Rajab. Movie is from the director who was in the awards circle as well, with I think 2 years ago, Four Daughters premiered at Cannes. Kauter Ben Hania, and tells a story that we are all too familiar with our social feeds through the news of the genocide that is happening in Gaza, perpetrated by the IDF, by Israel. And I think this is like, I don't even know where to properly like jump into thoughts in this film, because there's too much context to give for a film like this, because how far back do you start with all of it? But ultimately it comes down to hearing the real voice of a 6-year-old kid who was murdered alongside emergency helpers, alongside her family. It's a depressing movie. It's an urgent movie. We discussed this already. Unfortunately, something that like a movie like this doesn't change anything. It's not like you haven't seen more than plenty the amount of images and stories that you've heard of people under the violence in Gaza. That you know, you need convincing. It is also unique in the way that it uses the actual recordings of that call with Hind Rajab as a reference point, not just to be informed for like someone else to do the lines over. It's literally those calls that you hear play out in the movie, which is something that is also incredibly powerful all around. I think it's like what I said, it feels like something that transcends a bit, like, you know, the score, the movie score for a movie. It just feels like a very important film, much like No Other Land was last year. Kevin, I'll hand it over to you. What do you want to say about the voice of Hind Rajab?
I think it's sort of obvious that I'm not as involved in the conflict of Gaza, Israel as Ewan is, because Ewan is very heavily invested in it. Only really with Justin Theroux's The Settlers, it is that I've sort of gotten more and more into it, if you can sort of refer to the conflict as that. Again, sort of really looking at the voice of Hind Rajab as a movie, sort of despite, because the topic, the situation can easily be sort of above the movie itself. I said to Ewan, would it be justified that the voice of Hind Rajab got the golden line if it was a 6 or a 7 out of 10 movie? Then that would be a whole another conversation, right? But the voice of Hind Rajab is an immaculate, fantastic piece of cinema that rightfully so is justified by calling it the most important movie of its time. But as a movie, for me, it was sort of getting stale in the middle, because it does follow the story from only a operation call center. Also, as a quick context, this movie got announced, I believe, in April or May. So this movie only really has had a 4-month production thing. Obviously, pre-production, we don't know, because the director did have contact with the mother or the family of Hind Rajab.
The Red Crescent.
The Red Crescent. So it absolutely has gone to the right channels to justify the existence of this movie. It's not just an exploitation story of Hind Rajab, which is obviously obvious by the use of the Hind Rajab's actual voice. But as a movie, it is sort of, for me, the guilty in Gaza, because you stay in this operation call center. You do have, at a certain point, one of the operation callers going into his boss's office being like, we need to save her, we need to save her, we need to save her. So in that regard, it does get a bit repetitive. It is only 90 minutes as well. But then the movie pulls out a certain card that I have not yet seen in this medium, which involves the use of a mobile phone and real life footage that is playing on it during a scene that is sort of imitating said real life footage. It is not done perfectly, which only adds to the reality of it, right? Like someone smoking a bit too late, or just those little small things. And that is the part that floored me. Yeah, that is the part that floored me.
Through that, it doesn't feel like it is just actors doing a great performance. There's some reality to it as well, where by the end of this you feel like the lead characters in this did go through something similar than they did in the actual emergence. Like it feels like there's a true horror and an urgency in their performances as well. There's a couple of notes that I think are really interesting from her director's statement. The way that she went about it, she had another project going, then heard the recordings, because they did put it out on social media, which is partly also what they do in the movie. This is where you get the recording as well, that they like imitate by filming it, and then basically like fake filming, right? That sort of blend. And it's a deliberate choice on her end to stay in the single location, to let the violence remain off screen, because she says, like I said in the intro, there's plenty of that already around that we've seen, and it is then way more about what she wanted to focus on the invisible, the sort of thing that you said gets repetitive, which I don't really agree with, that like it gets stale for me. That wasn't really the issue. That wasn't really an issue for me. It's the waiting, the fear, the unbearable sound of silence when help doesn't come. And then she goes on to say, I cannot accept a world where a child calls for help and no one comes. That pain, that failure belongs to all of us. The story is not just about Gaza, it speaks to a universal grief, and I believe that fiction, especially when it draws from verified, painful, real events, is cinema's most powerful tool. More powerful than the noise of breaking news or the forgetfulness of scrolling. Cinema can preserve a memory. Cinema can resist amnesia. May Hind Rajab. Rajab's voice be heard. And I'm personally, I'm someone who's built close to water, as they say in a German expression. I don't know if that's actually an English one, but I get emotionally involved and cry pretty easily. I'm just almost choking up just reading this again.
Well, by the way, about the staleness of it, I know it can sound quite, cruel, but for example, like there is a certain moment that he does go back into his boss's office, and the boss actually explains to him the sort of chain of communication they have to go to, and in terms of a movie structure, that's the sort of thing I'm looking for that keeps the movie going. So it's like it's like a nitpick. It's also, in hindsight,
it works as a confrontation for them, that maybe that probably happened in real life, but it also gives you context as to what the Red Crescent does. So like if that's one-to-one what happened there isn't really relevant. So I hear your criticism for the structure of the movie. Definitely there. I just wasn't an issue for me, because I was sitting in this sort of thing. I at one point wrote down in my notes, because I obviously knew about the real life story. I heard about it while it was happening in 2024. Is that I wrote down a couple of times, like, is she dead? Is she already dead? Because we don't know in the movie, and it is like pretty early on as well.
Don't know,
and they often don't know, and I feel like I also didn't know like exactly what happened, because I heard the recordings. I didn't know about the specific order of things, like how it played out, I don't know. It's really depressing as well reading more about this, because just earlier this year in March, when they ended the ceasefire, it was only about like 2 months of that in the middle of January, and then they broke it on the 18th. They actually killed 15 Red Crescent workers. They were ambushed and killed near Rafah. Where also this movie is taking place more up in the north, and the Red Crescent Center is within the Israeli side, I guess, the settler side, somewhere. I don't know the exact location. But they kill people in ambulances and a fire truck and a UN vehicle, because they frequently labeled back to 2002. They labeled these as like threats where the IDF thinks that they are like transporting terrorists in them. So like that justification of like that moment as well where the boss points to like the people printed out, like all of the workers who are ambulance or the ambulances, and they have one left because like he says like he's not willing to add more pictures to the in memorial side. Like shit, that stuff is like really powerful.
And you know, if all that information and you know real images and news doesn't hit you, I mean, even at the end of the movie, they hit you with the actual pictures, the actual car. You know, I'm not gonna, you know, spoil it, but once you see the car that Hind Rajab was in, you're still like, holy fuck. So yeah, I mean, without a doubt, it'll be the most impactful movie of 2025. I gave it a 9 out of 10. If you can quantify a movie like this, which we will do, because that's just the way, you know, rating and criticizing movie work. You gave it a 9 out of 10 as well, and it was. I
checked my notes as well. I gave it like a 9.5 in my like right in the theater, but I think I didn't want to put it above some of the other ones that I gave like a higher ranking to.
Yeah,
my rating would probably be though a 9.5 out of 10. And
our jury grid was a 4.1 out of 5, which obviously naturally there are only a few movies that made it above that 4 out of 5 mark in our jury grid. And that also makes it one of the highest rated movies in our jury grid. And of the festival, I mean, hell, even on Letterboxd, if I just go there, the highest
5-star ratings,
for all 5-star ratings, actually has gotten a rating now, which is 4.0. So yeah, The Voice of Hind Rajab. If you're gonna seek out a movie this year that is very topical, let it be The Voice of Hind Rajab, so her voice gets amplified and gets heard even louder and louder throughout the world, even after her unfortunate passing.
On that note, before we close it out on, is another thing of the way that No Other Land's rollout was handled, where that was not screened in the US.
Or had no distributor.
Also recently is in the UN in that meeting that they recently had about like acknowledging Palestine's existence and the way that they are currently working on like, saying two-state solution is a thing. The United States was among the very few nations who were opposed to it, where like everyone else seemingly in the world, a couple of like African nations, I think, and Israel, of course, were against it. United States remains at the core, where also if you look at like the opinion pieces, the polls, it is very much the United States where a lot of people still side with Israel on this conflict, which is honestly so fucking concerning. But the difference it has compared to No Other Land is that it has Hollywood names like Joaquin Phoenix, Rooney Mara, who attended the premiere, Brad Pitt, Alfonso Cuarón, Jonathan Glazer, who already spoke out when he won his award for The Look of Silence, the Zone of Interest, and got heavily criticized for that, right? You got these people hopefully having an impact here that in the States as well, where this conflict seems to be still something that is talked down on, that it's not acknowledged, that it's a genocide, that people get to see this film, because I feel like the States needs.
You also got a letter recently that like I don't remember the number, but like that 4,000 people at least signed a certain letter, or like a promise that they wouldn't work with any Israeli affiliated companies. So obviously this film will still be in the conversation for a long time. And I'm glad we were one of the first ones that are able to see this movie as well at the Venice Film Festival, and can actually contribute to this film's discourse.
Well said. Well, we're gonna move on to the next film, but
Jesus Christ, that was dark. Oh my god.
Yes.
Like that.
It's not really a transition point here and now.
But it is different when discussing it like this, where you have to be honest.
Yeah.
Alright.
Anyways, let's talk about one of the few Italian films that premiered over in the competition section at Venice 82, which is Duse from Pietro Marcello. This is another one of the films that started with a Netflix logo. I think in this case, Kevin, you put note to this. That did it have to dum or did it not have to dum?
This one did. This one did.
This one did. Okay, you know the quality. If it gets to dum, it's a lesser Netflix movie. You actually picturing. Wait, let me scroll past the stuff because it's a fucking
teleprompter.
Italian synopsis, so it's fucking long.
Hey, you made the joke once, not me.
Well, it was supposed to be cut out, but now it's in.
It's in. Yeah.
Let's read the synopsis for Duse. In the years between World War II and the rise of fascism, legendary thespian Eleonora Duse shocks everyone by getting back on stage at over 60 years of age. Struggling with the brutality of historical events unfolding and clinging to the possibility of utopia, she makes her art a revolutionary act, even at the cost of sacrificing health and affection. Facing her final journey where she could give up life itself, but not her own true nature. Isn't that poetically put as a synopsis that I don't think it really gets there as a movie, unfortunately. But Valeria Bruno Tedeschi, who was pretty brilliant, I think, in Latashmo, a movie that we covered out of, I think, last year's Venice Film Festival.
The English title.
Yeah, it's currently like for the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been screening in Swiss theaters. It's been doing pretty well at the local one that I have a part in running. And that movie was great. There was a bit of a core to it. I think her sort of acting style, which is very much like overemphasis on her face, that feels like it's just like doing this.
Yeah, with the lips, with the lips, yeah.
It was just unbearable in this movie. I think there's a certain disconnect that we have not knowing or caring more about this figure, and it's very much an Italian thing to deeply care about the process of like a thespian, of an artist, especially if they get their hands on a poet. The Italians go crazy. Then really losing itself in telling a story about not much of anything. I get what it's going for, right? It spells it out in the synopsis, but yeah, I don't know. It mentions the contradictions that marked her existence behind the great successes of the Diviana lay equally sensational failures. And I think this movie never really gets us fully in the failures. It feels more like she tries to get back on stage. She's still seen as this brilliant person, and when something goes wrong, it's others that are to blame, and it doesn't really taint her image as it doesn't feel like it's letting me in anywhere. It feels like she's just obsessed with the stage. She wants to continue. It's not good for her health, and then it just goes into a spiral, which is obviously like her story. She doesn't want to give it up. But it also brings in her daughter, played by Noémie Merlan. There's also Fanny Rotra, who's basically like her shadow, who's like fascinated by her. Yeah. Wants to cheer her on even in her deepest obsessions. And I don't know, did you feel as well that it felt like repetitive? It didn't really build to anything, or did you get a bit more out of it?
So I'm only gonna describe this movie in one sentence, which is Maria from Aldi.
And where's Francesco Favino when you need him, right?
Exactly. But hey, at least you get Fausto Russo Alessi that shows up, which we've seen in a bunch of movies last year. That returns in this year. Hell, even Leopardi, which he was in, was way better than Duse.
Isn't it like also a French actress doing like speaking Italian? Was the original? Maybe I'm wrong about this.
Look,
no, she's an Italian French actress. Okay, never mind.
Like especially when the Golden Lion and the jury prizes awards were coming around, some people were saying that she deserves the actress award, and we were both like, bro, please, for the love of God, no. So and again, to our surprise, the actual winner, we both were so relieved when we heard the actual winner. But I don't have anything good to say about Duse, man. Maybe costumes. Hey, the costumes were period accurate.
For a while, I wasn't sure because they don't give you any context, because it's like, it's Italian history and it's an Italian festival. You're supposed to like, oh yeah, I get who that person is. Like, can you tell me again who that person is? I was like, is she talking to Mussolini, or is it like someone different? I don't know. I can't tell. That's bad. Like because they both look like Mussolini. And I felt a bit embarrassed. I was like, oh, I'm just too stupid for this movie to get like the reference, or like I don't know. And I was like, God damn it, man! I feel so disconnected and bored. It's also like the way that it describes it, like the role of the artist in the face of tragedy such as war, poverty, and pain. On the other, the possible facets of the relationship between art and power.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it explores that at all, because she feels like she's so complicit in just like saying, "Oh yeah, I'll take that state money. I'll be with that because art needs to continue no matter who's giving the money." It's like, well, no, that's very much important where that comes from. So it feels like she's not really doing anything with it.
Pardoned, right, at the end or something. Again, I don't care spoiling, bro. I don't care. I don't care about
it's literally about a real person, you know. It's not like that those would be secret, but I don't think it like does much to give us context to our legacy, give us an interesting portrait of a person. It just feels like she can't be on stage. Again, she's kind of mad about it and not much more.
If I can give this movie one compliment, if it's Eleonora Duse who's like sinks her career, well, this movie is sinking as well. 4 out of 10. I literally don't care.
Me too.
I don't care.
Anna Jurgen is also one of the lowest rated films. Had an average of a 2.4. So we're not the outliers here hating Italian movies. It was just most people didn't really connect with this one. Let's talk about the directorial debut of Shu Kui, a Taiwanese actress who has almost 100 credits. One of them, the most notable being Millennium Mambo. She was in The Transporter and Begun, latest film that premiered at Gun Resurrection. But in her first film here, it's a movie called Girl, simply called Girl. It's about Hashiole, a young girl, finds solace in her friendship with Lili, who embodies the dreams Hashiole has suppressed. However, Hashiole's inspiration are challenged by her mother's past, which mirrors her own struggles and traps her in the cycle of despair. This takes place in 1988, and I think this movie is pretty joyless. It is pretty much just very dreadful. It is about abuse. It's about like growing up, but a sort of depression that maybe someone else seems like the answer to push you along the way. I didn't really feel that either. I just thought we were just getting scene after scene where this girl is just like not happy, going through shitty moments, and the culmination of it all was like, yeah, no, life's kind of shitty, right? It's like, what the fuck? What did you feel, Kev?
This movie for me was sort of a nothing burger. We've seen this story before. We've seen this story done better many times before. And it's honestly, it's just too long. How long was it again? 125 minutes? That felt like a lot longer. Maybe some of the cinematography was pretty well done in terms of color. Some had a pretty, like I wouldn't say like a bit of a filter. Like it was more of a filter,
very much,
than actual coloring. Color grading going on.
I put down, one of my first notes was like, there's a tint to this movie. It's tinted.
But it isn't bad. It's just meh. Like that was the first thing. Oh, the editing was a headache to follow though. Like that I do remember. I don't remember much of this movie, but I do remember the editing was a headache to look at.
What I noticed is like there was no pacing to it. No. We got like some sort of like, there was one run-in that she passes out at school 'cause malnutrition or I don't know. She just passes out, and to me it was never really clear. Because they also have scenes where she's like, there's food at home, but sometimes she doesn't get food. But like, to me, it didn't add up that like that is adding to her passing out. Like I get like there's 2 points, but they don't connect in this movie, and that happens with a bunch of like emotional stuff, narrative stuff. So it feels just like a loose collection of a drunk dad, an abusive mom, and just a pretty shitty home situation. Her little sister also isn't much help, but she's just going through life without a care in the world most of the time. And then we get pulled into like a sort of different world. We go through the rabbit's tunnel, Alice through the looking into a new world that I think the difference wasn't big enough. Like I couldn't even tell you what was so different about like that world once that friend enters. I'm at a 4 out of 10 for this one.
I'm at a 5 out of 10. No, but I give it +1 because it has tennis in it for 3 seconds. Literally, it has tennis for like 5 seconds, right? Yeah. Girl, this was not good.
Okay. Well, our jury grid agrees it's less than a 3-point average. It's a 2.69. Nice. On that scale.
I hated my girl.
Girl. Oh god. Let's talk about Elisa, the latest film from Leonardo di Constanzo. This is based on the I Volevo Ucciderale by Alfonso Giretti and Lorenzo Natalia. No, I nailed that. It's about Elisa, the daughter of an ordinary family who has been in prison for 10 years for brutally murdering her sister. She believes she doesn't remember what happened, but her fragmented memories begin to come into focus during meetings with the criminologist Alui, who is conducting a study on family homicides. The truth that emerges for Eliza is devastating, a pain that may mark the beginning of redemption. I really like Rushdie Zem. I think he was last year. I think he was also in like 2 movies that premiered at Venice. He has quite the range of like people he can play. I think he's kind of underserved in this movie. There's not much to do. A lot of it feels quite stale in these sort of conversations that you have back and forth with these 2 people. One the murderer, the other one the criminologist, and then so like generically it then tells most of the story through flashbacks. It's kind of unimaginative, if I gotta say. And what the director mentions is something that there's a connection to his previous movie that he made that's called Árva, which also was like about prison relationships and basically where he left like the crimes that were committed by inmates off screen. And here it's very much just telling us what happened and basically treating it as a reveal. As our lead character doesn't know what's happened, we get to uncover it alongside her, and then it becomes about like what is it actually about. Like it poses the question of like, why is the criminologist interested in this? And that seems to be like one of the closing thoughts to arrive this movie wants to like get to, you know, why is interested in that. I don't know how interesting that is. It's based on the book that these 2 criminologists wrote, right? So it takes I was told this is a real story, but apparently it isn't. Apparently it's like, you know, some sort of meshed together thing of like, and I honestly I know we won't be talking about this one long because it is pretty standard. I don't know why a movie like this needs to premiere at the Venice Film Festival,
let alone in the competition.
What stood out to you, I guess?
I think, you know, overall this story could be done well. Like there's potential there, and again, like the flashbacks aren't really that interesting to me. What I think could have made for a good movie is when you're combining, because it's really interesting that when the criminologist gives a lecture, like does a course, like some of the prisoners are actually there as well following it.
Yes,
that's pretty interesting. Haven't really, you know, seen that before. I mean, obviously you have seen prisoners educating themselves on things when they get out. They have something to do. They have learned something. But in terms of like following a criminology course, like that's pretty interesting. And the conversations between the criminologist and Eliza are, you know, are pretty generic, but perhaps with some tweaks to the dialogue and making it a 1-location movie in, let's say, 90 minutes instead of 105, where she's sort of going through her emotions and admitting her past. Then it could have made, not for a perfect movie, but at least for a way more interesting one. She also has a relationship with her father, and that doesn't really
at the cost of, you know, the rest of the family.
Yeah, the
all
rest
of that.
of the family. But that really doesn't get explored past a certain reveal. Then the dad just totally disappears. Yeah.
To me, it was also weird that like there's one thing that gets revealed later on with the crime and what happened and how she got caught. And that to me was like, wait, why didn't no one mention that before? Like that's one of the core reasons why this family is so like split apart.
Torn apart, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, the murder of your sister will, you know, that's pretty controversial. Some might say, you know, but it's just, I don't know. There wasn't much, and then it what I found interesting is that it's also, in this pretty modern Moncaldo prison, which isn't a real place. I was kind of curious if it is. It's not. It's fictional. Where they have a lot of like agency over the days. She gets to work. She has like her own structure, and she also has the opportunity. Yeah, she also has the opportunity to go back into real, like her term is sort of served by the end of this.
Yeah,
and it's like she has the option to go on sort of leave, or I don't know what it's called.
Bail,
not on bail, because then she would be out. Then you need to post bail before you get back on the front of a judge. But like conditionally released, I think she would come back to prison. She gets to go out into town to work, and obviously like the sort of going back into the same town that knows what you committed the crime. And like, I don't know why you would ever want to do that, and it doesn't give us anything on her end, where like you said, there's so much more to explore with these people, and it felt more like it's very digestible. I think someone who's like no insult to like older women and like older people in general, but I feel like they would find this pretty interesting.
Yeah,
but I feel like it's not really, not necessarily boomers, but like a lot of like,
no, like
I could see this resonate with a certain audience,
right.
And I wouldn't fault them for like actually thinking this is really interesting and moving. But I find it quite
I'm just thinking about my dad. I mean, he watches NCIS. I think this shit is on the same level as NCIS.
It kind of is, right? It's not too far off.
Yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 10. You gave it a 5 out of 10. Jurgrid gave it a 2.3 out of 5. So it is on the lower side. Well. Yeah, basically also a 5. So it is on the lower side of the Jurgrid. If the synopsis interests you, if the story interests you, go seek it out. If you like NCIS and police procedurals, go check Elisa out on streaming, whatever that drops on streaming. I mean,
yeah, it definitely will be on streaming, right?
Straight to VOD, bro.
Silent Friend premiered late into the Venice Film Festival. It is set in the botanical garden of Marburg, a medieval university town in Germany, and tells 3 stories connected to a tree over a period of more than 100 years. Kevin, this was one of our highlights of the festival. You already had it on your radar. It stars Toni Leung, Lea Seydoux, Luna Wedler, who's a Swiss actress, and a couple of other people who maybe are like a bit lesser known, and is taking place, like it mentions, in 3 different time periods. One of them, with Toni Leung, takes place in 2020 during the height of like the lockdown of COVID pandemic, where he's locked up in the actual university almost by himself, with some charming interactions that we'll talk about soon. And then Luna Wedler is like the earliest point, where it doesn't really give you a specific point when it takes like time when it takes place in. We just know that like the tree itself was planted in like 1827. Oh, 1882.
Yeah,
I wrote down 32. Might be off there, I don't know.
Anyway, 1800s, definitely.
Well, not the 1800s, the 1900s, that would be. But the story takes place in... wait, what? Yeah, no, 1800s, sorry, in the 19th century. Oh, God. And we've been recording for a while. You don't know that. But the film itself, I think, is such like a beautiful piece of media that feels like it's a meditation and moving in and out of the different time periods that are like shot differently. One of them has a digital look to it, the other one like very 70s film aesthetic, and the one the earliest with Luna Wedler is like one that's told in black and white. So there's a distinct difference in looks, but you get the same sort of like feeling that connects all of them, that like in the editing of this film you weave in and out of them pretty seamlessly without like, okay, now we go back to this and it's like this is a time period. But no, it's very, very fluid the way it's all connected. And I found this to be a delightful experience. I was laughing, laughing. Yes, it was
grinning.
Funny, but also laughing, grinning, because I had a good time. Even though like there's not like too heavy subjects in this movie. It's pretty like, it's nothing that it was devastating.
No.
And it was just pretty life affirming. It felt like it's sort of a connection. I love this film. I had a great time with it.
I mean, hell, even one scene that could have been pretty dark or depressing is when Luna Wedler gets interrogated by a jury to get into the university she wants, because it's the first year they would allow a female student in, and one of the jury members has had a certain thing set up for all the female students that would come in and apply for it, and Luna Wedler's character just sort of aces to this test. Like at a certain point, she has to name the Latin title of either a book or the full title of a book in another languages, and she does so perfectly. It's a pretty long one, and literally, it's literally long one, and she rattles off that entire name, and the whole audience was like, "Damn, girl, yeah,
press audience as well.
Press audience as well, not even the regular one." But to me, Silent Friend is this year's perfect day. Do you remember when he was like taking care of his little plants with his little glasses on, and like imagine that in a 2 hour and 30-minute movie that is so chill, is such a vibe. You sort of relax back. That is what Silent Friend is to me. I guess the only people that are expecting a lot of Lea Seydoux, she's mostly on a computer monitor in pristine quality, might I add.
Such high quality. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Which is funny,
man.
because when Toni...
I was like, this is 2020? This is not like 2120? That's crazy. That looks crazy. And it's funny because there's like a couple of moments
with another person, and
actually, it's just Lea Seydoux.
That looks like it's straight on Skype. You know what I mean?
That was pretty funny. But yeah, there's like a story that happens in the 70s where there's like a guy who is just living on the university grounds. So I don't even know what he studies, but then he meets a girl who's like doing a study on a plant and like how how that reacts to just over time, and like what triggers it. And just doing a study on communicating potentially with plants, and the way that like sort of unfolds is it's so jolly. It's like it's so fun. It's like there's not a care in the world other than like
it's creative.
Like it's really creative. Yeah, and what he could like, I don't know. I had so much fun with especially that part of it, and then the Luna Wedler stuff is like you obviously feel like hers is going to be the heaviest because there's the burden of
the social standing she has
over like the university of not getting in and carving out the place for her. And even that is like, obviously you could be like reducing it down or romanticizing as like, oh, it's easier than it actually was for her to, but no, she finds those places with her personality that feel like they're not like oversimplifying something, and it ends up being pretty low stake as well. And I really enjoyed her bits as well. Like she gets into photography, and that's like connection with plants and like still life and all of that, and that whole process all like felt pretty meditative as well, that she goes about it. And then Tony Leung is like like someone who studies brains, and then in his free time that he now has a big ass tree, and he like starts to study that one and tries to see if like what sort of communication is happening there. And there's a whole hijinks with the other like the what are they called,
the concierge,
the janitor. Oh yeah, it wouldn't be just a janitor. I think someone who's more in charge of like the whole university. Concierge, yeah, and he stays there as well, and there's a bit of like tension that maybe he doesn't like him, and the way that they have the interactions like towards the beginning and the end of the film, it just all feels like pretty hopeful, and that is rare that we get something like this that doesn't feel like cheesy. It is like and there's definitely going to be people who are bored and don't like this, but I found it just really, really nice. It was also shot very well.
Oh yeah, shot very well. And as you said, like the transitions, the editing between scenes are done immaculately, flawlessly, very smooth. If I have to bring up a scene, I could honestly listen to Toni Leung give a lecture a whole day.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the beginning there is a certain scene where it's in front of the people, and he legit, and it, like that scene sets the tone of the rest of the movie. Because it is a scene where you ask everyone in the hall, like, hey, put off all your devices, put them out, put them off, turn your laptop down, and let's turn all the lights down. And then he's giving a lecture about how the adult mind and the baby mind works, while throwing around a big ball of light, and you see just and you see just the people, the students, their faces sort of glow up of excitement, of curiosity, and that is honestly what the rest of the movie is. That certain curiosity, creativity that leads to discoveries, and again, all these three different storylines have a certain common type of loneliness, whether it's literally because they're in a pandemic, or whether it's socially in their standing because she's the only female student at the school. And it is honestly, we have, spoiler, we have handed this movie the Golden Lion in our own picks, and more people need to seek out this movie. I don't think it will be enough talked about, and but I hope it does. I gave it 9 out of 10.
Me too. It's also screening at the Zurich Film Festival, hopefully some more film festivals, and does get this distribution. One of the mentions in the director, also 9 out of 10 for me, by the way, highest rated on our jury grade with a 4.25. The director writes, in times when it is so dangerously questioned and attacked, we should also like to draw attention not only to the importance, but also to the beauty and the naive, daring force of scientific research. And what I like about this film as well, it's not about these stories intersecting, about them leading to some sort of great revelation that we now understand plans, and they have this full organism and we can communicate with them. But it's also the process of research, how important that is, and how much that is currently being vaporized.
I mean, literally the beginning of research, because what Tony Long does, like, is starting something new.
New study, cross study as well with someone. Both expertise. That's where Elisa Safdie comes in.
And I get the last thing I have to say about this movie is tree sperm. That's it.
You gotta watch the movie to get that. But I understood that reference. Let's talk about a film that we completely didn't get. This one's called Bravo Bene, a film fatto per bene. This is the synopsis reads is typically long. It's an Italian movie once again. Filming on Franco Maresco's film about Carmelo Bene. Don't know who that is abruptly halted after yet another onset incident. Producer Andrea Cocchipinti pulls the plug. Exasperated by the endless takes and repeated delays, angered, the director simply disappears. I'm gonna stop here. I don't want to read more. It is a movie that we didn't get because it's like deeply ingrained, I think, in
Italian culture,
Italian filmmaker and Italian culture, and making fun of a specific person for some reason, which felt like bullying. And I don't know if it's warranted or not, because it feels like it's a person playing themselves. So I don't know if we are in on a joke or not. And like, I just didn't get it. I don't like that feeling. So I don't have much to say about it other than I had the worst time with this film because I did not understand it, and I also didn't think, like, if I took an outside view of what it was going for, that it did that like successfully in my mind. But again, we are lacking so much context here that I don't think we can give it like a fair review of what this movie would need for someone who actually is interested in watching it. But it was part of competition, and I think it shouldn't have. So yeah. What do you think?
I know you don't have the editing chops to do this, but it's this guy, the gif of this guy being like this, and it's like the point, and it's like,
oh yeah,
that's what our reaction to this movie was. There are scenes where we are sort of getting the point. I mean, it's still. Yeah,
it drags. Then like when there is a joke that we get, then it's just like it's dragged out forever, and it's just like
I do dare you to do one thing. Tweet me the people you have written down as cast, because that's the most Italian shit I've seen.
It's Franco, names. Francesco, Marco, Alessi, Greg, Umberto, Francesco. There's 2 Francescos and a Franco. Crazy.
We don't have much to say about this one. Let's be honest.
No. We just didn't get it. Again, this is not made for us. It's just a pity that this is not like in another section where maybe it would have been,
where we
out of
where we maybe would have even missed it happily.
Yeah. Sorry, we gave it. This is I think my lowest rated on the. It is. A 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 10. I went a bit mild on this movie.
And it's at a 2.3 out of 5. The only reason why it's not a 1.75 is because Max Borg, who is Italian, also Finnish, but he got the references. He's someone who's seen like over, I think, like 12,000 movies in his life. So he knows way more about like film history than these 2 fuckheads do. And there was something for him to get.
Why you call me a fuckhead?
Sorry, singular fuckhead. He's just a head, and not a head. He's a head. But yeah, like that. So yeah, maybe go read Max's review of this. If you want to hear someone who has a different perspective than we do.
Last but not least, we have The Sun Rises on Us All. The synopsis read as follows. Ex-lovers reunite years later, burdened by past regrets and sacrifices. Their meeting stirs old feelings and pain until they finally embrace, crying before parting ways again. I think that is a way better synopsis than the one Biennale has. Ewan, who directed this movie? What are you thinking?
The sort of thing is like, sorry, on the synopsis, the sort of thing is like they write it as like a thing of you haven't seen the movie, but you kind of want to know what it's about. So like they spoil the whole thing because it's the last competition film that premiered at the festival. Was like, oh, who's watching that? It is by Kai Xiangyang. Again, I'm not versed in Chinese. Definitely something that we. Yeah, I'm sorry, but we liked your movie a lot. It's its lead Zhilei won the best lead performance, best female lead performance at the festival. We were both hoping coming out of the theater. It was like we've now seen all of the performance of the festival. We were like, that was the best one by far, right? And we were like, yep, we agree, and we're happy that the prize went to her. Like I think it already mentions in the synopsis, if I'm not mistaken, because we read twice of them now. Yeah, it mentions like sacrifices, redemption. Like I think all of those things are like touched on in this movie. That maybe we've discussed a whole bunch of films now. That they do have the aspiration of, you know, you have two characters. They look at each other and you can feel what their hurt is, what they've gone through, without getting every single context and every single like flashback to like. There's so much told in just especially the eyes of the lead actress here that just like completely floored us at times, right? Where like you can feel the depth of her like hurt and the complexity of emotion she feels towards this other person, towards the ex-partner, and also how she is like basically from one moment to the other, with him re-entering her life, her old life is like slowly being as if it's like a loose string just being pulled apart until there's nothing left and she's a mess. Like that's sort of how I view this whole film, like how I played out on a larger scale for her emotionally. How it actually plays out, obviously we are not going to, you know, say all of that to keep it spoiler free. But yeah, what did you think about it?
Like you said, great lead performance, but opposite the great lead performance, we also have a great actor performance from Zhang Song Wang, and you know they both portray hurt so well. You can honestly just read it of their faces, of the screen, and because this was the last competition film, like we were so happy. This movie was way more focused on show, don't tell, and you could feel that. You and I love it when there's a scene in a movie that encapsulates the whole thing perfectly. And there's one scene in this movie involving an elevator, and the moment that scene ended, we actually looked at each other and we were like, that was it, right? Yeah, that was fucking great. It is very topical also because obviously the lady had a TikTok. No, she doesn't have a TikTok store. That would be very weird. Oh, have you said that?
Yeah, but she's just no, not a TikTok store. The TikTok, I can't even talk anymore. Not a TikTok store, but she is selling stuff through TikTok, like live streams, right?
Yeah, and it's probably not even TikTok, but the Chinese equivalent of TikTok. But
yeah.
Oh wait, is it?
It looked, yeah.
Is it TikTok?
No, well, I think it's not called TikTok in China. I think it's like but it is basically the same app, different name. Right. It functions a bit differently, but it's probably like TikTok equivalent, I think is.
But this is probably the most emotionally heavy film of the competition. And again, like I know we've talked about The Voice of Hind, Rajab, but that's like emotionally devastating on like a different level, on like a reality level, in terms of like a performance, a story told level. Like I do think this is quite the most emotionally heavy one. I guess
it's like Shakespearean, you know, this sort of trauma.
yeah. Like, and it is also refreshing to see such a relationship on the screen, because most of these are quite an abusive one, or are like a flirty one, like, hey, we're on, we're off, we're on, we're off. And like, this is a movie where this couple is bound by each other to sickness, to just mental, physical hurt, and but yet they can't let each other go. And it's
I want to spoil the elevator scene so
no,
much,
right?
but it's like I can't, but it's like, it's so perfect, like you said, it's so perfect. It like completely reflects exactly what the struggle was when the initial an event that we never get to see, but like, something that was the catalyst for the setup of the story. Why that happened, you never get to see it, but you totally understand what happened. And you see it kind of again in that elevator scene, exactly why they haven't changed and why they can't escape. They're stuck. They're stuck, but not in a way because they hate each other, not because they love each other either. They're somehow bound in a way to each other. And I think like the director's statement also puts this so well. It's like, when they meet again many years later, they find that repentance brings no pardon and sacrifice brings no justice. And it's like, damn, man, those are fucking bars. That is, Jesus. That's just, I mean, it's true, right? It's true. Like, repent, right? You can't undo what you did, and you did it for someone else. So like, there's no justice for what you didn't
for
get.
What he did,
like,
or for what she did.
Yeah,
like.
It's life in it, but it's like, oh my god, well, it sucks. It sucks. It's like, oh my god, it's just again, I think the way that it reads, if you read the synopsis they have on the Biennale page, maybe it's a bit like over dramatic. I found the ending to be a bit too much for me as well, but I felt that like it was a bit of like one final push that felt like it's exaggerating a bit, when the whole story was like holding back these deep emotions, and they were like coming through at the end. I was quite moved by this one. Really solid film.
I love this film. I know you had some doubts about the ending. For me, the ending hit. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I really like this one.
I ended on a 7 out of 10, like you said, especially because the ending didn't work for me fully. Otherwise, it would have been at like an 8 as well.
And our jury grid is unfortunately a bit more lukewarm on this one, with a 3.07 out of 5. Now, to be fair, I don't know if many people on our jury has seen Sunrise and All.
No, the most people gave it like a 3.5. You were the highest with a 4, but it was Connor who gave it a 1.5. He watched this as a screener.
Yeah.
And then told us like, oh, actually, this is hot garbage. And I was like,
but again, I don't really like as a screener. I wouldn't really see this movie as a screener. Like, I'm very glad I saw it in a theater, because that's where you really feel it. But like, even the Letterboxd
score is
ratings
pretty good as well.
Quite low, yeah.
So I didn't write that down in my notes for our review now, but I think the score, the visual presentation of it all, I think all of it was very solid. That's why we didn't even touch upon it. Like, it's really good.
Yeah. So Sunrise and All, if you can. And is that the end?
That is the end. Oh my god, the end of all times. Yes. Wow. We've been here for like 3 hours and 45 in recording time, and we've reviewed 21 movies. That's about a fourth of the whole thing.
But to be fair, some of these movies were actual discussion-worthy movies. Some weren't, as you can see by the end. The got a little bit shorter. But we do still have like 50 movies to review. So
yeah, there's a lot left.
Stay tuned for those. Horizonte, Out of Competition, and Spotlight. Horizonte and Spotlight will be combined together just for our mental sakes. Otherwise, we will go insane.
Mental? You still have a sane mental mind?
No, actually, I don't after this festival. You're right. I'm just merely ahead. I'm just really
it's just merely floating. He wants me to cut it out and like, show my poor editing skills. But no, thanks so much for watching. Again, leaving a like and subscribing and watching more videos and sharing. Perhaps a comment helps to show the Biennale that like, oh my god, some people actually give a shit about this, and helps us get into the festival more, get more access, get more screeners, all of that. So it's greatly appreciated if you watched all the way to the end here to do that. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. We'll be back with more Venice reporting, and we'll see you soon.